Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel Delta Harry. So today we're gonna see what if Harry Potter was omnipotent ruler of red dragons. Don't worry, I'm not gonna host the entire video. Due to YouTube community guidelines, I have to make this intro.
Harry had, for once in his lifetime, been left home alone by the Dursleys. They had gone to Majorca on summer holiday and left him behind, but only after Uncle Vernon had given him a lecture for about 3 hours. Harry had been in the library every day since the summer started, working as a librarian. With the money, he bought some clothes that actually fit him and his own food. But, unfortunately for Harry, the Dursleys made him pay the bills too. Right now he was walking home after he had closed the library. He walked past the park and had turned in his own street when something happened. A few yards away a light appeared and someone with it. Harry couldn't see who it was because it was almost dark. The person was wearing a black cloak and a black robe. The hood on the cloak was up, covering the face. Harry took out his wand. He had begun to carry it with him everywhere after what had happened in his 4th year. The person in front of him seemed to be injured. It came forwards a few steps then fell, clutching their stomach. Harry decided that the person was too weak to do anything to him and came out of the shadows into the light of the street lamp. The person groaned and got up again. Harry stopped immediately and pointed his wand at the person. The person looked up at him. "Shit," it said weakly, then fell back down. Harry didn't hesitate, he ran over to the figure. He wasn't sure, but that voice sounded very familiar. After he had turned the person around, his suspicion was gone. Draco Malfoy was lying there. He had several bruises and a few deep cuts that were still bleeding. Harry wondered if he should help him. If he did, and Malfoy turned out to be a Death Eater, Harry would just hand him over to the Ministry of Magic. If Malfoy wanted to get away from the Death Eaters, he could tell that to Dumbledore and let him decide. "You're lucky, Malfoy, that I haven't got a choice but to take you with me," Harry mumbled under his breath. He conjured a stretcher, put Malfoy on it, and then hurried home to number 4, Privet Drive. He laid Malfoy on the couch and summoned a bowl of water and a towel. He thanked his lucky stars that Dumbledore had insisted that he should take extra lessons at Hogwarts. He had learned how to heal wounds, extra hard charms, difficult potions, defense against the dark arts, or training. How to duel with a sword and Muggle combat, the last he had known from before thanks to the Dursleys, but that was another story. To his surprise, and the professor's surprise, he could do the hards. Tea spells and brew the hardest potions easily. Harry growled when he saw some of the wounds. Even thought Malfoy was his enemy, he didn't deserve wounds like these. It took him almost 30 minutes just to clean all the wounds, and then he healed them like Madame Pomfrey had taught him. After he had floated Malfoy to the guest room, Harry went into the kitchen to get something to eat and sent a letter to Dumbledore. He then went to bed himself. The next morning, when Draco woke, he was sure it had been a dream. Then he looked around the room and saw that someone had cleaned and bandaged his wounds. There were some Muggle clothes on a wooden chair beside the bed. The sunshine came through the window, giving an almost unearthly light to the white room. Draco got up and got dressed. The clothes were several sizes too large for him and made him look skinny and small. He opened the door and walked out into the corridor. This was obviously a Muggle house, as the pictures didn't move and there were no signs of magic. He walked down the stairs and into the living room, only to discover that no one was there. Thinking someone might be in there eating breakfast, he walked into the kitchen. He gave a yell of surprise as he entered. Right there in front of him was his worst enemy, Harry Potter. He was sitting quietly at the table, reading the paper and eating some toast. Draco couldn't help but notice how little food there was on the table. At Malfoy Manor, the table had been covered with too much food. After the meals they had to throw almost everything away. Finally up, Malfoy. "Breakfast is on the counter." Harry pointed to the counter where there was a platter full of toast and a glass of milk waiting for him. He could feel Malfoy glaring at him from behind, but chose to ignore it. "I haven't poisoned it. And besides, you need the energy. Those wounds were pretty bad." Harry heard Malfoy moving slowly over to the counter, then sitting down at the table. Neither of them spoke for a while. Harry was busy reading the paper and Malfoy was busy eating. "Did you find my wand, Potter?" Draco asked when he was done. Harry pointed his own wand towards the living room. "Accio wand. The next second Draco's wand came flying into the room and landed in front of him. He quickly examined it before he put it in his pocket. He looked over at Harry, who was still reading the paper. Suddenly Harry jumped up from his chair, which fell backwards, and put the paper down on the table. The whole outburst made Draco jump and draw his wand. When he saw that it was nothing, he pocketed his wand again and was about to sit down when he saw a look of utter surprise on Harry's face. Draco looked down at the paper and realized that it was the Daily Prophet, the wizard newspaper. "What's the matter, Potter? Never seen moving pictures before," he sneered. Harry didn't look at him, he just stared at the paper. "I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. She actually wrote something true," he said. "What are you on about?" Draco asked, getting curious. Harry showed him the paper. "Read there," he said, pointing out a few lines. "Fudge is blinder than a bat if he doesn't believe us now." Draco looked down at the paper. "You know WHO is back. By Rita Skeeter. The Dark Lord is back and seems to have been for quite a while. Our own Minister of Magic has not been believing this fact until last night, when he had a face-to-face experience with a few Death Eaters. First time we heard about you-know-who's return was from the boy who lived, Harry Potter, after the Triwizard Tournament in his 4th year. Minister Fudge didn't want to speak with us, but some of his employees were kind enough to give us some information. The dark mark has been appearing again too often for us to ignore it," one official said. "It is clear that he who must not be named is back. You know the tragedy in America. The one about the planes that flew into the World Trade Center towers. They say that you know who is behind it." Another one told us, "What happened in America is indeed one tragedy that could lead to World War III, and that's exactly what you know who wants." Arthur Weasley said, "All we see and do is pray to God that something as horrible as that never happens." Interesting news. Fudge finally believes you, Potter, Draco said after he had put the paper down. "Malfoy, what the hell happened last night?" Harry asked. "Before I found you half dead," he added quickly. Draco had been expecting this, and knew that if he didn't tell, he would never get away from this house except in chains, on his way to Azkaban. "Wait, I left the others because I didn't want to be a Death Eater. This could be my big, and only, chance. But of course it had to be Potter who got me out, didn't it?" he thought. To Harry he said, "All right Potter, I'll tell you, but promise me one thing, that you'll first hear me out, then decide on what to do with me." "Deal." Harry thought over it for a moment. "Deal," he said in the end. "Well, are you going to begin, Malfoy, or do I have to drag it out of you on a string? You know already that my father is a Death Eater, so I won't have to tell you that. He wanted me to follow in his footsteps and I did. Until last night, a group of us younger Death Eaters had been in a club, some got pretty drunk and suggested that we attack a random Muggle family. We found one and attacked. The parents were hit with the body bin curse and forced to watch, what some of the others did to their daughter. It was at that point that something inside me snapped. I don't know why, boot 'em all." He hesitated and looked up at Harry, who was watching him with a calmness and patience that could outmatch Dumbledore's. "I got some pretty bad cuts, as you saw. I remember running into a kitchen, closing the door behind me and transfiguring a cup into a portkey with no specific location. The rest you know better than me. You should know, Malfoy, that I've already sent Hedwig to Dumbledore," Harry said after a while. Draco's head snapped up. "But I've told him to keep away until I got something out of you. Now that I have, I'm not sure of what to do. Hedwig hasn't returned with a reply from Dumbledore, so I know I'm going to hate myself for doing this. I think it's best for you to stay here if you want." Harry finished. Draco was gaping at him. "You want me to stay here? After all I've done and said to you? That belongs in the past. Let's start over again. What do you think? You would trust a Death Eater, Potter?" Draco warned him. "Doesn't Dumbledore trust Snape?" Harry asked. "But he's on your side, spying on the Dark Lord. For all you know, I could be lying to get you to trust me and then kill you." "I don't think you will," Harry said calmly. "And if you do, well, I'll take it when it comes. How in heaven's name can you be so bloody calm about dying? I've always wondered how you could keep your head cool, while dueling with the Dark Lord in our 4th year. Dumbledore once told me that, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. I'm taking it literally." Harry smiled. It felt weird to sit here and talk to an old enemy about things like these. And besides, from what you told me, I don't think you want to be a Death Eater anymore. Here's your chance, Malfoy. Draco thought over it for a few minutes, then he took Harry's hand and shook it. I'm Draco Malfoy, he said. You, Harry Potter. Welcome to the light side, Draco. Over the next week, Draco learned a lot about living like a muggle. It took him some time to learn how to work a computer, TV and other things like those, but he got the hang of it in the end. In the meantime, he and Harry were getting to be pretty good friends. One day Hedwig came back with a note from Dumbledore. Hey Hedwig, where have you been? Harry asked as she landed on his shoulder. The owl began to hoot, telling her story while Harry untied the letter from her foot. Draco smiled at her. Suddenly Hedwig flew up and landed on his shoulder. She likes you, Harry said. She has forgiven you for coloring her green and silver in our 5th year. Yeah, sorry about that, Hedwig. Draco said. But if Gryffindor hadn't had such good players and smashed Slytherin in the Quidditch match, that wouldn't have happened. Harry was busy reading the letter. Bloody hell, he yelled, jumping up. What is it? Harry read out loud. Dear Harry, how nice of you to help young Mr. Malfoy. I will let you decide on what to do with him, when he is healed. However, I must tell you, and him, that his parents were killed by the Ministry of Magic. They were caught by an Auror, but they choose to fight rather than come peacefully. Draco would have been the owner of Malfoy Manor, had it not burned to the ground a few nights later. Hogwarts is still standing, yet we have discontinued teaching, for fear of being attacked. All the professors and I have taken into hiding, and we have sent letters out to all the students, informing them of what has taken place. I fear we will not be able to resume teaching until Voldemort has been defeated for good. I hope that will be soon. Over to other bad news. The Weasleys and the Gangers have been attacked. Their houses are completely ruined, but they are safe for the moment. We need to move them soon or Voldemort will find them. I hope that you have a nice holiday and practice what we talked about last year. Albus Dumbledore. Hogwarts closed. Draco said. The professors in hiding. Granger and Weasley attacked. The Dark Lord is getting way out of hand. Curse you, Voldemort. When I'm finished with you, you'll wish that you never were born. Draco flinched at the Dark Lord's name. Don't say his name. Call him Voldemort, Malfoy, or Tom Marvolo Riddle. Fear for the name often increases the fear for the thing itself. Harry said after calming down a bit. Suddenly Draco opened the Muggle newspaper. Potter, what's the names of your relatives and where did they go on vacation? He asked. The Dursleys went to Majorca. Why? Give me a second, Draco replied. After a few more minutes of searching he found the page he was looking for. Bad news. The Dursleys are dead, killed by alligators while they were asleep in their hotel room. There was a long silence in the room. Well, at least that means that I have the house to myself for good now. Potter, this is serious. I know. Well, I think that the first thing we need to do is kill the bastard. Can I help? First of all, I've got to get a job. Draco said. The two of them were sitting in the living room, planning what to do next. Why? Harry asked. Well, since you own the house now and I'm your flatmate, I've got to pay my share of the bills. You're one hell of a sly Slytherin. Harry said, grinning. And proud of it, thank you very much. Draco replied. The next thing we have to do is give ourselves a name. A name? What good will that be? Harry asked. He had been thinking about Hogwarts. You seriously didn't think that we could just attack right away, did you? These things take time, I should know. And besides, have you ever heard about heroes that called themselves by their original names? Yeah, Hercules. You're not helping in the situation, you know. How about Malfoy and Potter? Nah, it doesn't sound good. Harry replied. What, you want Potter and Malfoy? Quote, I didn't mean that, thought it was a good idea. I was thinking something like Dumbledore's group, the Resistance Against Voldemort. Then how about the Order of the Phoenix? Draco asked. No, it already exists, and besides the real Order of the Phoenix would have killed us before we could do a thing if we did take it. How does the Gryffindor Underground sound? Never. It disrespects the few good and trustworthy Slytherins. Sorry, Harry said. I've one last suggestion, but it does sound a bit stupid. Let me guess. Is it Charlie's Angles like the movie? Not exactly. It's the Red Dragon's order. Potter, I think you've got it, but why a dragon? Draco asked. Well, dragons usually are seen as powerful, unafraid, strong, wild and beautiful creatures. Someone who doesn't get caught, and someone immortal. Besides, dragons are sacred in China, and after a while Voldemort will search there instead of here. Where did you get that from? I don't know. It just popped into my head. The rest of the night they discussed theory, other things and where Voldemort would probably attack next. They also talked about members and what kind of crest they would have. The next day Harry wrote a letter to Dumbledore while Draco was off on job interviews. Professor Dumbledore, last year you told me that number 4, Privet Drive was protected by magic wards. If you want to you can send the Weasleys, Grangers and some professors over here. The Dursleys were killed in Majorca, so they won't mind. Draco is out looking for a job right now. He plans on staying here for a very long time. Hope to hear from you soon, Harry Potter. Hedwig, could you take this to Dumbledore? The owl flew over to him, let him tie the letter to her leg, G. Avenue an encouraging hoot and was off out the door as Draco entered. Any luck? Harry asked. So far I've been offered a job at the Kitty Cat Club as a waiter, in the CD shop, the video store, a grocer. Y store and as a helper at the newspaper. So, which one are you going to take? Probably the news job. Get to hear the news before they get printed, you know. You sent the letter to Dumbledore yet? Hedwig flew past you when you came in. We've got to make room for everyone. How? We would need magic to do that. Draco said and Harry raised an eyebrow. Oh, hey don't look okay. You see what living like a muggle does to me. Draco made bunk beds out of all the beds upstairs and then added a few more where there was room. He did the same in the living room. He and Harry met again in the kitchen after an hour or so. Draco had no idea where Harry had been in that time. Where have you been? He asked. I worked my ass off conjuring bunk beds while you seemed to have been taking a walk in the park. I just prepared out headquarters. Harry answered simply. And where is that, if I may ask? Right under us. ... Okay, you're kiddin' me, right? Not at all. Harry replied. Last why? I overheard Dumbledore telling McGonagall that there was a secret network of tunnels under Privet Drive. The only problem was that they didn't know in which house the entrance to the tunnels was. Get to the point, Potter. When I was 10 I found a trapdoor in the cupboard under the stairs. I checked it out now and began to work on it. I could use some help down there you know. Potter, does your luck ever run out? Let's hope not. The reply from Dumbledore came a few days later. Harry, you really are a saint. Your offer came in the last minute. I am sorry to hear about your relatives, really I am. Could you unblock the fireplace so that they can arrive? They will be arriving in this order. Ronald Weasley, Hermione Granger, Virginia Weasley, Fred Weasley, George Weasley, Percy Weasley, Molly Weasley, Arthur Weasley. Remus Lupin, Severus Snape, Minerva McGonagall, Sirius Black, Neville Longbottom, Clara Longbottom. Mr. and Mrs. Granger are staying with some friends, and Charlie and Bill Weasley are safe. I am sending 15 invisibility cloaks, just in case. Take care of them Harry, and yourself. Albus Dumbledore. Sirius Black. Draco yelled. He's going to kill us all. Huh. RRY sent him a glare that made him shut up. Sirius Black is not a killer Draco, he said calmly. He's my godfather, a friend of my father and Lupin, and he works for our side. Let me get this straight. He knows you know him. But he has killed 12 muggles, and everyone's okay with that. Harry nodded. Did I miss something? Calm down. I'll tell the whole story while we fix the fireplace. Harry told Draco about his third year. About Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs, how Peter Pettigrew had betrayed his parents and turned out to be Ron's old rat, Scabbers. When he was done Draco was gaping like a fish for a few minutes. Okay, I don't even know what to say to that. So don't say a thing. Wonder Boy, Draco muttered darkly as Harry was leaving the room. I heard that. The next few days Harry and Draco used to explore and chart the tunnels and rooms under Privet Drive. They put the invisibility cloaks down there in case the group that was coming didn't want to help them out with the Red Dragon's order. One late night the two of them were playing Exploding Snap when the fire turned green and rose high into the air. A second later Ron came out, harking and dusting his clothes off. Ron, Harry, It's so good to see you, Ron said, hugging Harry. What's he doing here? He asked, turning to Draco. I'll explain when everyone have arrived. The whole greeting went like that, except when Snape arrived. He just looked around with the usual smirk on his face. Finally doing your share in the war, Potter, he said, but Harry ignored him. Next came McGonagall. When she saw Harry and Draco, she got tears in her eyes. You two are saints, she cried. After all you have gone through, you still help others. She broke down after that and had to be comforted by Mrs. Weasley. Sirius appeared next in the fireplace. As he got out he knocked his head in the process. Ouch. Who the hell builds that low fireplaces? Muggles, Padfoot, Remus said. Muggles. They were all in a happy conversation. Even Snape had joined, when a new, ouch, came from the fireplace. As Harry turned he saw Neville coming out, then he helped his grandmother. None told us that Neville would join us, Remus said. Dumbledore told us, Harry said, mentioning to Draco. Hi Harry. Sorry we came a bit late. I ended up at the Leaky Cauldron on my first try, Neville said after he had helped his grandmother into a chair. Thanks for letting us stay here, by the way. I heard about the Dursleys and your parents, Malfoy. I'm sorry. No need, Harry and Draco said at the same time. But Harry, what is Malfoy doing here? Sirius asked. I remember you once wrote to me that you were about to do an important, crazy, life-changing decision if you were friendly to him. Nice to know that you trust me like that, Harry, Draco said. Harry laughed and told them how he had found Draco injured in the days after, but he left out the part about the Red Dragon's order. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Everyone went quiet and stiff, like reindeers in car light. I'll get it, Harry said after a minute and made his way to the door. When he opened he found 2 police officers there. Are you Harry Potter, nephew of Vernon and Petunia Dursley, cousin of Dudley Dursley? One asked and Harry nodded. Can I help you? He asked. This was weird. The police had already been there a week ago, but had left him alone when he said that he was 17 years old. There was no need to move him to an orphanage as he would be filling 18 next year. Can we come in, Sonny? The other police officer asked. What's the matter? Is it about the Dursleys' deaths? Yes it is. Well, young Mr. Potter, we have to move you to an orphanage until we can find someone to take care of you until you're 18, then you can move back here. The Dursleys gave the house to you, the first officer explained. But, no, buts, Sonny. You're coming with us now. Forget it. I'm not going anywhere. Yes you are. Stop squirming. Teenagers, listen, we know you miss your relatives, but we can't let you stay here alone. We have to find someone to take care of you. That someone wouldn't happen to be named Voldemort, Harry thought, but he turned to the officers and said, can't I even pack? We'll send someone here tomorrow. Let God of that street lamp. Oh no, it's beginning to rain. They were almost by the car. Harry was still HTING hard and the 2 officers didn't get him inside. In the meantime Draco, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Neville, Fred and George had been watching through the kitchen window. Now they ran back into the living room. Mum, Harry's been taken away by the police, Ginny yelled. Once again the room went deadly quiet. What? Sirius asked. It's true, but he's giving them one hell of a hard time getting him to the car, Fred said. That boy has done so much for us. Quickly, someone tell me the name of one of Harry's relatives on Dursley's side. McGonagall said. He mentioned an Aunt Marge. Draco said. Yeah, he blew her up like a balloon once. George added. What kind of name is Marge, anyway? I think it's short for Marjorie, or Margaret, or something like that. Draco said. McGonagall figured her robes into Muggle clothes and ran out the door. The rest of the people in the room ran into the kitchen to see what was going to happen. Harry had almost given up when he heard McGonagall's voice. Harry dear, what is taking so long? They want to take me away, Aunt Marge. Harry yelled using the first name that popped into his head. What are you doing? McGonagall shrieked as she came over to the car. The 2 police officers looked at each other and stopped dragging Harry. Mrs., we're taking this boy to an orphanage until someone can take care of him, the first officer said. Not with my nephew. And who are you? Quote, Margaret Dursley, Vernon Dursley's sister. I'm taking care of him. McGonagall pushed Harry towards the front door. I was about to go to the police tomorrow. But now that you're here I don't need to. Go inside, darling. With that she turned and walked inside after Harry, leaving two very confused men outside. Good acting, Professor. Thanks, Harry said once the door was closed. My pleasure, Harry. All I hope is that it was enough. With your talent, I doubt that they will dare to come back. When McGonagall blushed. When I was little I loved to act, she said a bit shyly. I was sure that you were gone there, Harry. Fred said. Yeah, what were you trying to do? Give us a heart attack. George added as everyone walked back into the living room. Your luck never runs out, does it? Draco asked. He and Harry were bringing up the rear. I've got a few ideas for the order. Hermione and McGonagall as researchers, and McGonagall also as the Transfiguration teacher. Good ideas. I would put Lupin in the research department too. Snape will continue being the potion master as usual. Draco said. What did the officers want anyway? Those weren't real police officers. Probably low-ranked Death Eaters in disguise. Don't tell it to the others, thought, or George will get a heart attack. That was bad. Now they know that we're here. Suddenly, the two of them noticed that the whole room was looking at them. You two are hiding something, aren't you? Sirius asked. Harry and Draco looked at each other. Us, they asked at the same time, innocence written all over their faces. Potter, Malfoy, spit it out. Snape growled. The two of them looked at each other again, then told the rest about the new order they had started. And there's no way you can stop us. So don't even try, Sirius. Harry said as Sirius opened his mouth to argue. The animagus closed it again. This time I'm with Wonder Boy here, Draco said to point out that there was no use arguing with him either. Now that the resistance against Voldemort is gone, the magical population needs something to believe in. There was a long silence in the room. Hope. Everyone looked at the speaker. It was Neville. The Red Dragon's Order is a new hope for the magical population, and I would be honored to belong in it. He walked over to Harry and Draco, shook their hands, then stood beside them. Looking at the others. What can we do? Ginny asked. We're only a group of 16 people, while the Dark Lord has hundreds of Death Eaters. How can we attack them and win? As Draco told me the other day, these things take time, and the Red Dragon's Order has something that Voldemort doesn't. Harry said. And that is? Remus asked. You. Draco said, mentioning to everyone in the room. The best in several subjects. For example, Fred and George. Us. What can we do? Superb ideas in mischief making. If you two turn to planning attack plans, you could make a living out of it. Harry said. And then we have Ron. The best chess player in school, in other words our own tactic master. Everyone in the room were now looking thoughtful, thinking over this. And Hermione. Neville said. The previous know-it-all. Our own research master. Professors McGonagall, Snape and Lupin and Mr. Black are experts in several fields alone. How about a healer? Neville's grandmother asked. We have wonderful Mrs. Weasley. Draco said. I bet that she's a superb healer and even a better cook. Mrs. Weasley blushed furiously at that comment. And we have Harry. Draco added as an afterthought. Pointing at the green-eyed teen. Everyone looked at him except Snape and McGonagall. Dumbledore insisted that I should take a few extra classes in my 5th and 6th year. They have gotten me on their side. McGonagall said. What about headquarters? Snape asked, his expression thoughtful. We've already fixed that. Harry replied. If you still are in doubt, think over this, Voldemort has dealt with the Order of the Phoenix many times before, so he knows how they operate. The Ministry of Magic are doing all that they can, but again, Voldemort knows their ways. We're a bunch of people that, by working together, can outsmart him. We even have 2 ex-Death Eaters that knows his methods. Harry was cut off by Draco. And Lucky Luke here has dueled with old Snakeface before, so he knows how that goes. Damn it. 2 teenagers have outsmarted 2 marauders, a professor and a slimeball. Sirius said, making Snape glare at him. If that can happen, everything can. Harry, I know I'm gonna kill myself for doing this. But count me in. I know I'm gonna kill myself if I miss this chance. Remus said. I'm in too. What about the rest of you? Neville asked. Do you think you could have kept us away, Harry? Hermione asked. Show us the way to the headquarters. This is amazing, Mr. Weasley said. They were in the tunnels under Privet Drive, in the main room. Harry and Draco had put 3 couches there with a table between them. Everywhere you looked in the room there were doors leading to other rooms and secret passages out of the place. I've never seen anything like it. Hermione whispered in awe. It was right under our nose, McGonagall said. Do you have? Yes, Herm, we have a library. Harry answered before she could finish. With what books, Potter? Snape asked. Found them down here in a room. Pretty old books, don't think Hogwarts has them. Draco replied. The next day Fred, George, Hermione, Ron, Ginny and Neville were off to look for jobs. If all of them were to stay in number 4, they needed more money for food, clothes and bills. Mrs. Weasley and Neville's grandmother stood for the cooking, washing, cleaning and mending, always helped out by Hermione. Ginny and the boys went. They came back from work. McGonagall, Snape, Sirius, Remus, Percy and Mr. Weasley spent more than half the day down in the Red Dragon's headquarters brewing potions, planning, researching, transfiguring and practicing dueling. They also taught the teenagers in schoolwork and other things that they thought the kids should know. In all that hustle and bustle Christmas was quickly approaching. One morning when they woke up it had been snowing over the night and it was still snowing. Harry, Draco, Ron and Hermione were winning a snowball fight against Fred, George, Ginny and Neville when Mrs. Weasley called them in for dinner. At dinner they talked about Voldemort, Christmas, Voldemort again, New Year and what to do with Voldemort. He's going to strike tomorrow to get the Dragon Eye. World's largest diamond and rumored to have magical powers. Remus said. So we thought it was time for the Red Dragons to try their wings for the first time. Sirius continued and all the teenagers looked up. Yes, we discussed it last night, Mr. Weasley explained, and found out that it was time for Voldemort to see what we're made of. Just don't forget what we have taught you. Snape sneered. If you do, then my young friends, it hurts my heart to say this, but you're dead. Sirius said. It was late at night and Draco couldn't sleep. He stood up, got dressed and climbed up on the roof, where he found Harry sitting. Draco sat down beside him, neither one of them speaking. You're thinking the same as me? Draco asked finally. You mean that something will go wrong tomorrow? Yep, Harry replied. There's just this feeling in the air, isn't it? Draco nodded. There was a long silence, then Harry turned to him, a mischievous look in his eyes. Want to do something about it? Like what? Quote, help me copy all the books that we have over the next few days. Then help me cook up a plan to get everyone out of the house quickly, in case of an emergency. What are you going to do with all the books? Keep them. Draco was about to ask another question when suddenly Harry began to glow golden. The light became brighter and brighter. Potter, what the hell is going on? I was about to ask you. Draco looked down at himself. He was also glowing, but his color was silver. He looked up again and met Harry's gaze. Suddenly the other boy bent over, as in pain. Bloody hell, he gasped. Potter, are you all right? Draco asked. In the next second he felt something in his palm. He looked down in time to see a red dragon shaping there. A minute later everything was gone. The light, the pain, the feeling of strong, ancient magic. What the hell happened? I have no idea. So, you still in about the books? Harry asked. Sure. Let's get down from here, this is getting weird. The next day the rest of the order noticed that Harry and Draco were different. They hent and looked different. Harry didn't wear his glasses and Draco didn't have his usual sneer on his face. But the rest of the order pushed it aside, thinking that it was only nerves before their first bigger mission. Now remember, Remus said just before they were leaving. New York is a dangerous city. All you are going to do is attack and get out, no hero business. And if any muggles see you, use the memory charm. Good luck. With that Harry, Draco, Ron, Fred, George, Neville and Hermione apparated. Sarah Goldberg was walking slowly to the car that was supposed to take the Dragon Eye to the museum. She was the only black female homicide detective in the whole district. Ra had loved her work until she found out that almost half District 14 was made out of corrupt cops. She had tried to talk to the chief about it but he had said that she should leave it be, do her job and be happy. Sarah had done that for a year now and it had eaten her up inside. When she had first started in the police she had been dreaming about a straight police district that everyone loved. Later she had found out that it was wish thinking. Sarah, what would you have done if you owned the Dragon Eye? Her friend's voice interrupted her thoughts. I don't know, never thought of it. Sarah replied. I would have got a new wardrobe, and new makeup. Her friend said. Then I would get me a handsome young man and get married in Las Vegas, wherever that is. Vegas in Nevada, Jenny. Sarah told her as the car began to move. She looked at her watch. 1 a.m. She looked out the window, the town was unnaturally quiet. Usually there would be people walking home from a date, going to a bar, getting thrown out of a bar or something like that. Then she noticed that they were taking a different route to the museum than planned. The car stopped in a dark, deserted alley. Something's going on, Sarah said to the other three in the car. Probably a red light or something, Jenny said, yawning. But the other two officers were getting nervous. We're completely on the wrong way, one whispered. I get the feeling that this is the calm before the storm, the other said. Suddenly there was an explosion in green light from outside. The force of it made the car roll over several times, then stop on its side. Sarah lost conscience after that. When Sarah woke again she heard voices. And when her eyes could focus properly she saw about a dozen people walking around in black cloaks and robes. These two are still alive. The one closest to her said. Who'd have thought that muggles were this hard to kill? It wasn't the muggles, you idiot. Another one replied. It was the diamond. That's why our Lord wants it. Help me over here, will you? Cloaks, robes, Lord. Must be one of these weird terrorist groups. The diamond. I've got to. Sarah didn't have time to think further as something happened. Suddenly, out from the shadows, 7 people came. They were dressed in identical black shirts, jeans, sneakers and a large black cloak that reached their heels. The hood on T.E. cloaks was up so she couldn't see their faces. But what she did see was that one of them had golden fastenings on the cloak and another silver fastenings. The cloaked ones attacked the robed people with a swiftness she had never seen before. The robed ones weren't prepared, so they lost the diamond and grabbed for something in their robes. Sarah couldn't believe it when she saw them draw out sticks, pointing them at the attackers and saying some words in a language she didn't understand. In the next second red, yellow, green and black beams shoot out of the sticks heading towards the attackers, who jumped quickly out of the way. 6 of the 7 attacking people drew their sticks out too and started yelling in the same language, pointing the beams towards the robed ones. The diamond was a few yards away from her. Sarah tried to move but couldn't. The cloaked person that wasn't fighting came over, picked up the diamond then turned to her. She saw that it was the one with the golden fastenings on the cloak. The person came over to her and helped her to sit up. Sarah had by now got to the conclusion that this was a male. Here, he whispered. You hold the diamond and we'll do the rest. Sarah was too weak to argue. He stood up and joined the fight. The fight was over quickly now. The robed people were lying on the ground, but were still breathing. Call an ambulance, one of the cloaked people said. Sarah recognized him as the one who had given her the diamond. I'll do it, a female voice answered, and she got out a cello phone. Hey, Wonder Boy, get over here, a third said. Flame Boy's injured. Sarah saw that the one with the golden fastenings went over, put his hand on the injured leg and seemed to concentrate. She gasped loudly when a golden light appeared down his arm and when the other one could walk a second later. I've called the ambulance. What do we do with them? The girl with the phone asked, pointing to the robed people. Apparate them to the ministry. The one with the silver fastenings replied shortly. Each and one of them pointed their sticks at to one of the robed people, said a few words and the robed people were gone. Then in the next second the cloaked ones were gone too. Sarah looked around and thought she spotted a fat, little, balding man turning into a rat in the shadows, but she wasn't sure. The ambulance arrived a few minutes later along with the police. Sarah didn't tell them what she had witnessed, it seemed important to keep it to herself. Instead she told them that the driver had driven in here, got out and a bomb had gone off. Very good Detective Goldberg, her chief said. Now you are going to the hospital while we're bringing the diamond to the museum. Sarah fainted again after hearing this, due to all the blood she had lost. Sarah woke up in the middle of the night in the hospital room she had got. She had no idea how long she had been there. She looked around and saw several machines that helped her be. Reether did some bipping with a weird green thingy that was jumping up and down like a rabbit in the mating season. Sarah felt so tired, so hopeless. She wouldn't survive the night, she knew that. She had lost too much blood and had too many broken bones. Suddenly there was a wind in the room and 2 cloaked people appeared. Sarah saw that it was the two with silver and golden fastenings. They took off their hoods and came closer to her bed. Sarah could see their faces now. The one with the golden fastenings had wild black hair, unnaturally green, piercing eyes and a lightning bolt-shaped scar on his forehead. The other had silver blonde hair and steely gray eyes. "And you're sure we can save her?" the blonde asked. "Sure, if we work together," the other replied, then turned to Sarah. "Listen, miss, we're going to heal you our way. We only want a favor in return whenever we need it. Are you okay with that?" Sarah nodded, not really believing that it would work. "Good, this may hurt a bit. Hey, are you ready, Almighty One?" The last bit was said sarcastically into the blonde. They put their hands on her shoulders. Sarah gasped when she saw that their arms glowed. One was glowing golden, the other silver. Suddenly she could feel all her broken bones healing. It wasn't so hard to breathe anymore and she got stronger. After a while she realized that they had taken away their hands. "I had no idea that I could do that," the blonde said. He was standing guard by the door. "Don't look at me, I've no idea why we can do it at all," the one with the green eyes replied. Then he turned to her. He took her hand and turned her palm up. "What's your favorite animal?" he asked. "A black panther," Sarah said, still in shock from the healing. He held his palm an inch from hers. A golden light came from it and hit her palm. She felt a strong urge to scratch it but resisted. "There," he said and put her hand down. "That's a reminder. Good night, Sarah Goldberg." The two of them stood in front of her bed again and were about to disappear when she remembered the man inside and the two of them looked at her. "After you disappeared in the alley, I saw a fat, balding man turn into a rat. Just thought you should know. She has already done us a favor," the blonde said. "You have no idea what that information means to us. And we thank you." He bowed a bit, and a second later the two of them were gone. Sarah looked down at her palm. Her mouth dropped open. A black panther was there. It was walking around for a bit, then laid down and fell asleep. She smiled and leaned back at the pillows. "The nurses are going to have a fit when they see me tomorrow." Next morning in number 4, Privet Drive, everyone were waiting for the Daily Prophet. When it finally arrived, a fight broke out until they realized that Harry had the paper. He was leaning on the doorframe smiling at them with a raised eyebrow, his arms crossed at his chest. "Oh, don't mind me," he said. "Carry on. I was just having such a wonderful time." "He's got the paper. Take him," Fred yelled. Everyone got up and ran towards Harry, who just stood there calmly. Suddenly he snapped his fingers and Fred and George, who were leading, tripped and fell. Hermione, Ron, Ginny, Draco and Neville followed. "Help me get everyone in the living room," Harry said. "Then we'll look at the paper." It took some time to find everyone. But in the end they were all gathered at the same place. "Why are we here?" Sirius asked. "Don't look at me," Remus replied. "This better be good." Snape growled darkly. "Everyone be quiet," George yelled. "The Daily Prophet has arrived." "Harry, read it," Ginny said. "Sure, just let me finish first," Harry said. "We don't have all day, Potter," McGonagall said. "If you don't read Harry, I'll be going to Azkaban for killing the famous Harry Potter. Literally," Sirius threatened. Harry laughed and began to read. Dragon Eye with Dragon Helpers by Rita Skeeter. Last night the Dragon Eye, world's largest diamond, was transferred to a museum in New York City. The diamond was found by history professor and relic hunter, Catherine Carman. On the way to the museum, the driver took a different route than planned. They got attacked by a group of Death Eaters, and saved by a group of people that the American Ministry of Magic has named the Red Dragons. The Death Eaters just popped up on the floor. The Ministry Night Guard said. All of them were stunned and had a little red dragon tattooed at their forehead. "We talked to the American Minister of Magic, Al Roosevelt. NK, it's wonderful that someone finally stands up to you know. Who?" he said. "These red dragons are exactly what the world needs." The Daily Prophet also talked to our own Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge. "The red dragons are an important part of the ministry. It was wonderful that someone finally started to take a stand. Men and women that are willing to give their lives for the sake of the good. We need more of those." After this touching statement, the minister had to hurry off to an important meeting. "Everything I have to say is, go Red Dragons." Now that was touching, Draco said as Harry put the paper down. The minister made it look like as thought he was the one who started the red dragons. Well, that takes the suspicion away from me. Harry said. We need to know what's going on in the ministry. Who's up for starting a round of the big game? The big game? Draco asked in shock. But Potter, that's a Slytherin game. The big game, Neville said. Doesn't that mean to have spies and contacts in important operations and so on, and have those spies do work for you? Yep, and I'm the first Gryffindor to play it. Harry replied. Yes, Malfoy, I played it in my 5th and 6th year at school. So that was you, McGonagall said. I knew something was going on but I had no idea who was pulling the strings. All right everyone, Mrs. Weasley said. Back to work or what? Ever you were doing before the paper came? I think that spending a year as a beetle really did Skeeter good. They heard Ron say before he and Hermione went down to the Red Dragon's headquarters. Harry and Draco were copying books the days after their first mission. When they were finished, Harry moved the books somewhere, not even telling Draco the location. He also took the invisibility cloaks with him. He seemed to be spending every free minute he had out of the house. Whenever someone asked him of his whereabouts, he just said he had been out to think. It happened on Christmas Eve. They had just finished with a wonderful dinner and were sitting in the living room. Harry and Draco were playing chess, Hermione and Ginny were talking to Mrs. Weasley, Neville's grandmother, and McGonagall. Snape, Mr. Weasley, Remus, Sirius and Percy were discussing Voldemort's next move. Fred, George and Neville were playing Exploding Snap. Suddenly Harry and Draco's heads snapped up. They looked at each other, nodded and stood up. May I have your attention, please? Harry asked as Draco went to open the trapdoor to the headquarters. We're going to be attacked soon. Everyone meet in the maw. In room down in the headquarters at once. Harry didn't give them time to ask how he knew that they would be attacked. He jumped off the chair he had been standing on and went to the main room where he met up with Draco. A minute passed before the others followed. Potter, what the hell are you on about? Snape demanded with the tone he had used in his classes. In the next second the whole house shook as thought it was hit by something. That, Harry replied calmly, taking out his wand. He summoned the others' wands to them and started to walk down a corridor. The others had no choice but to follow. Harry lit his wand and led the others through a secret passage he hadn't even showed to them. They walked fast and a few minutes later they appeared in the park that was a few blocks away from number 4, Privet Drive. They turned and looked down at the house from the park. As it was on a hill they could see much of the little town. The house was completely in flames, the dark mark hovering in the air above it. As they watched the house fell together as though it had been built out of cards. There goes that headquarter, Draco said. Shame, I was beginning to like that house. The rest as just staring strangely at him or Harry, some with their mouths hanging open. Harry looked at them, shrugged and began to walk away. They followed him, not having anything else to do. Harry led them through the streets until he finally stopped in front of a house. He knocked at the door. It was opened by an old Muggle woman. It took her some time to recognize Harry, but when she did she let him, and the others, in. Harry, I'm so sorry for your relatives, she said as they settled in her living room. This must be your friends from school. It's nice to meet you all even though I've no idea how you got here. And at this time of the night. Please Mrs. Fig, Harry interrupted her. Could we stay here for the night? We have been at a club downtown and someone stole my keys to number 4, and you were the only one I could ask for help. Harry said all this in a desperate sort of way which he knew she had no heart to turn down. All right, but tomorrow I'm calling the locksmith, she said sternly. Try not to get your cat mixed with mine, and keep that dog away from them, or else. With my life and thank you Mrs. Fig, Harry said. Mrs. Fig nodded and went back to bed, letting them settle in on their own. The others waited for a few minutes before they bombarded Draco and Harry with questions. Okay, what was all that about? Hermione asked. How did you know about the attack? Ron said. Who is the old bugger anyway? Fred and George asked at the same time. Harry calmly raised one hand and they shut up like they would have done with Dumbledore. One thing at the time, he said. Draco and I got an anonymous tips about the attack and got you all out. That old lady was Mrs. Annie Fig, she was my old babysitter. From here we're going by flow to a pub in London. You'll hear the rest of the story when we get there. They tried to get of him but he wouldn't even open his mouth, so they gave up. Where are we going to get the flow powder from? Draco asked in the end. I've got enough with me. Harry walked over to the fireplace, lit a fire with his wand, threw some powder in and turned to the others. Okay, just say, the Slayer bar, and you're there. Draco looked suspiciously at him, then walked into the fire. The Slayer bar, he said loudly, and was gone. The rest followed one after one. Harry was the last to leave. He took out a letter from a pocket, put it on a table where Mrs. Fig was sure to see it. Looked around one last time, stepped inside the fireplace and was gone. When he arrived at the other end, he saw that the others were sitting around the fireplace in chairs, sure to corner him when he came out. Harry smiled and sat down in a chair himself. Okay, he said. Shoot. First of all, Harry, where are we? Sirius asked. I've never been here before. We're at the corner of Baker Street and Oxford Street. I saw that this place was being sold, so I bought it. We're now in the back room of the bar. Harry replied calmly. May I ask what good a bar will do us, Potter? Snape asked. It's going to be our new headquarters. But if we have a bar, we've got to run along with the Red Dragons, Hermione said. Now really? Good logic, Granger. Draco sneered. How are we going to do that? Hermione asked, ignoring Draco. We're going to let Voldemort think he's got the upper hand now. In the meantime, we'll recruit other students from Hogwarts that we know we can trust. And of course, we're going to look at other places after recruits too. Harry said. But Harry, we've lost all the books we found in the tunnels under Privet Drive. Neville protested. Nope. Wonder Boy here thought of that too, Draco replied. He made me help him copy every damn book we had. My back still hurts. Harry, from now on we're just going to call you the Game Master, okay? Sirius asked. It would save us a lot of confusion and trouble. Everyone looked at Harry, who was sitting there calmly. He reminded them of Dumbledore, and still there was something more powerful about him. They could easily see that he was not someone to cross if you didn't want to end up dead or in big trouble. Well, I guess we'll have to begin on the bar then. Ron said after a long silence. No need, Harry replied. All we need is a day to open it, but now we're going to bed. Harry showed them their rooms and offices. Each of the doors had the animal that suited the personality of the person that was going to live there, carved on it. Seamus Finnegan was looking out the window of his room. It was late at night and he still couldn't sleep. What had happened to Hogwarts still shocked him. Even though it was a few months ago, and then it was the World Trade Center Towers thing. The world was going nuts and he couldn't do a thing about it. Seamus had gotten the Daily Prophet delivered to him since the summer had started. He deeply wished that he could be a red dragon. Fighting evil with magic swords, meet presidents, go on secret mission, go undercover, rescue damsels in distress, whatever that was. He looked at the full moon and saw something flying towards him. A minute later a barn owl landed on the windowsill. Seamus looked closely at it and saw that it had a letter tied to its leg. He untied it and that owl flew off. The parchment was light and the crest on the wax that was holding the letter together was a dragon. Seamus looked at the front again. Seamus Finnegan, Apartment 10, Southington, London. It was written in red ink. Seamus quickly opened the letter and began to read. Dear Mr. Finnegan, we are sure that you have heard about the Red Dragon's order. Well, this is your chance to join us. However, if you are going to join us, there are few matters that must be settled. 1. If you have family or friends that you don't want to lose or involve in this, think really carefully over this offer. 2. If you do not trust orders given by owl post, muggle post or email without it being signed, do not read further. 3. You must be ready to get called out anytime, anywhere. For this you will go through some special training. 4. Under missions you will get a new name and must, under no conditions, tell it to anyone, not even fellow agents. 5. Again, we remind you. If you have family and friends that you do not want to get involved in something like this, please consider your choice before answering. If you have made your choice, please cross of the option that suits. Yes, no. Seamus thought over the offer for the next hour, then he crossed over, yes. The writing disappeared and something new appeared. It was a red dragon. There was some text under it. Put your wand arm palm down over the dragon. If you are ready to join us, it will transfer to your palm. Seamus did this. At once he could feel a strong urge to scratch his palm, but didn't do it. The felling was gone a second later. Seamus looked at his palm and found the red dragon there. He looked back at the parchment again. Congratulations and welcome to the order. At Saturday, a new bar will be opening at the corner of Baker Street and Oxford Street, the Slayer Bar. Go there and show your palm to the bartender and he will give you the next directions. Seamus smiled. Suddenly the parchment was on fire. Not even ashes were left. At Saturday he found the bar and was surprised that a long line was waiting to get in. He shrugged and got into the line. Half an hour later he got inside. Spotted the bar and walked over. The bartender was flipping and turning bottles in time with the music. After a while he came over to Seamus. "What do you want?" he asked, and Seamus showed him his palm. "Oh, the bathroom. Straight out that corridor. You can't miss it, the door beside it has a griffin carved on it." Seamus nodded and walked away. He found the door and knocked. It opened on its own. The room inside was completely dark except the ring of light just inside the door. Seamus stepped inside the ring. The door behind him closed and he just stood there, alone in his circle of light. Seamus was beginning to get really annoyed and was thinking of leaving, when a voice spoke. "Welcome everyone, to the Red Dragon's order. You are the first recruits in the Red Dragon's history, which is, for the moment, very short. And yes, there are more of you in the same room." The light was turned on and Seamus could see about 20 other people besides him standing in the room. "In Is room you are going to learn how to block pain, brew the Veritaserum and to duel. This time however, you are going to spend some time getting to know the others in the room. You are going to work as a whole group in the beginning and later go on missions 2 and 2, or 1 and 1. Now get to know someone. That's your first order." Seamus was about to go to the person that was standing in front of him when several people jumped on him. When he got them all off he found out that it was Dean Thomas, Alicia Spinett, Katie Bell, Colin and Dennis Creevy, Angelina Johnson and Oliver Wood. "I had no idea that you guys were recruited too," Seamus said. "Neither did we until the lights came on," Wood replied. Seamus had a good time getting to know the people in his group. That night, when he came home, he knew that he had done the right choice. The Red Dragons Live, by Rita Skeeter. After the Dragon Eye episode a year ago we thought that the Red Dragons were gone. We were wrong. The Red Dragons have lately popped up everywhere in the world. The Daily Prophet talked to Harry Potter yesterday. "Of course it scared me when the Red Dragons disappeared," he said. "We need them to win the war against you-know-who. You know there's a rumor going around that the Red Dragons have something planned for Hogwarts. I think they're going to open the school again. You may want to check it out." After that Mr. Potter had to get back to work. But you readers can be sure that we will check if Hogwarts is still standing. More news will be in tomorrow's paper. Harry put the paper down and looked round the room. "I don't too, Harry," Sirius said. "She made you look like a wimp." "I know, but it's only dragging the suspicion of me being the Red Dragon's leader away from me." "I thought you said that Fudge was taking the blame," Draco said. "They will always suspect me, no matter what. Tomorrow we'll take the invisibility wards off Hogwarts and let everyone, who wants to, return." "I sent a letter to Dumbledore," Ron said. "So he'll be there. As sure as the teachers will be there, the Death Eaters won't let this chance pass." Remus said. "Well, it would have been suspicious if at least me, Ron, Draco, Hermione, Ginny, Fred, George, Neville, Severus and Minerva weren't there. I bet that the Ministry is going to turn up with 50 Aurors minimum. And then you have the Order of the Phoenix X and the rest of the Hogwarts students that we have recruited that are not on missions." Harry replied. "Ol' Voldy ain't got a chance. It will be good to see Albus again." McGonagall said. "What about the House Elves and the Hogwarts ghosts? They never left." Draco answered this time. The next day people began gathering in Hogsmeade at sunrise, Harry and the rest of the Order among them. They met old friends and professors. Dumbledore among others. "Harry, how good to see you," Dumbledore said. "Hello Professor," Harry replied. "These Red Dragons are amazing, aren't they?" "They sure are." Dumbledore didn't have time to say anything else as Snape, McGonagall, Hermione, Ron, Ginny, Draco, Fred, George and Neville came over. "Professor," Hermione squeaked. "This is wonderful. Hogwarts is back. Look." Someone yelled suddenly. "It's back." Everyone looked where the man pointed. The proud Hogwarts castle stood there as it always had in immemorial times. On top of the astronomy tower 2 banners were waving in the wind. One had the famous Hogwarts crest and the other a red dragon on white background. The mass of people ran towards the castle, cheering at the same time. Once there they were met by centaurs, unicorns and other creatures of the light from the Forbidden Forest. Harry and Draco hadn't run off with the crowd, instead they had hid behind honeydukes, thinking that no one had seen them. Dumbledore had been astonished upon seeing the Hogwarts castle pop out of thin air. He looked around for Harry or one of his friends, but couldn't see them. As he passed honeydukes something happened. A lion with wings, the true form of the griffin, that was twice as high and twice as long as a hippogriff flew over him and the rest of the crowd, closely followed by a silver dragon. The two animals made a round around the astronomy tower then disappeared in midair. Dumbledore had by this time got to the steps leading to the main doors of Hogwarts. He still noted that RRY and Draco suddenly appeared from nowhere at the rear of the crowd. He would have to ask them about it later. I now proclaim Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry for reopened. Dumbledore saw into the crowd and led them through the big oak doors. Harry, Draco, Neville, Hermione and the Weasleys were all sitting at the Gryffindor table. Harry was looking at the huge Gryffindor banner hanging over the table. Thinking about all the times he, Ron and Hermione had been sitting there as students discussing homework, planning pranks to do to Snape or Malfoy, or talking about Voldemort. Suddenly Hermione jumped out of her seat. "Victor!" she yelled, waving her arms as though they were on fire. "Victor, over here." Harry turned and saw Victor Krum walking towards them. The guy was Broa Dur at the shoulders than Harry remembered, and was wearing an Auror's uniform. Krum and Hermione had kept in touch over the years. "Hello Hermione," Krum said. You could still hear his Bulgarian accent. "Harry, how have you been?" Harry stood up and shook Krum's hand, smiling. "Good," he replied. "You seem to have given up Quidditch, maybe I have a chance now." Krum laughed, sat down and put his arm round Hermione's waist. She, however, didn't seem too keen on that. "When Hogwarts was shut down, I decided to be an Auror. To fight for the light side and so on, you know. So, tell me Hermione, what have you guys been up to since we last saw each other?" Harry looked over at Ron as Hermione began to tell the cover story. If looks could kill, Krum would have been dead, cremated and buried 6 feet underground before he could have blinked. "Keep an eye at Loverboy for me, will ya?" Harry said to Draco who was sitting beside him. "Where are you going?" Draco asked. "Snooping," Harry replied and left the table. Harry looked around for the Auror's commander. When he spotted the man he walked over to him while putting on an old caps out of old habit. Commander Knowles was somewhere in his 50s. He had broad shoulders and a hawk look that saw everything important. Harry had offered him a place in the Red Dragon's Order a few weeks ago without telling it to anyone. The man had been a blessing in disguise. When Harry stopped in front of him, the commander looked him up and down, measuring him. "What do you want, Sonny?" he asked. "One little cap and they don't recognize me. I've got to wear this thing more often." Harry thought. "I was wondering if you could tell me about Agent Krum." He asked the commander. What has he gotten himself into now? Knowles glared over at the Gryffindor table. "Oh nothing," Harry said quickly. "I'm just a huge fan and wanted to know everything he had done in the past 2 years." He was hoping that Knowles would buy this story. Commander Knowles seemed to think over this for a while then mentioned for Harry to follow him out on the grounds. "I guess that if I tell this to you, it'll only help the ministry," Knowles said. "But first I want your name." "Harry Potter." The name surprised the commander but in the next second he smiled broadly. "I think this could actually work. Mr. Potter, promise me that you will tell others the information that I'm giving you." He begged. "You have my word, Commander," Harry said after thinking over it for a moment. Commander Knowles nodded, satisfied with the answer. "So, you want to know about Krum, Well, Joe. In a month after Hogwarts was shut down because of you-know-who. He was eager to learn and we thought that he might turn out to be a top Auror." But Harry gently pushed on when the commander stopped. After he had graduated from recruit to full Auror, he began to show up late for work every day, and he was often drunk. In a duel he would use the killing curse even before his opponent could BL. Ink even if he had gotten different orders. He also began to chase every female Auror in the whole squadron. Knowles had a grim look plastered on his face. "Won't the minister do something if you went to him?" Harry asked carefully. "I have gone to him, but he's too stupid to see trouble even if it bit him in the ass," danced naked at his table with a large, flashing sign that said, "Trouble," and San. G. Backstreet Boys, the call, as loud as it could. Knowles took a deep breath to calm down. "In the last year the whole thing have gotten worse. I get more and more complaints about Crumb. You know, he has had no less than 50 partners only this year." The man looked around then leaned closer to Harry. "I've even gotten over 20 rape complaints." "You're kidding." "No, it's as true as the fact that you know who is back. Listen, Mr. Potter. You gave me your word and I trust that you will hold it. Talk to that Skeeter woman. She'll love the gossip and color it to make it look more dramatic. Fudge must listen to us then." Harry thought over this. He couldn't, and wouldn't, go back on his word. He was thinking about telling this to Draco, but not the rest. Hermione would go into hysterics and Ron would kill Crumb before they got any proof against the man. Something in the horizon, behind the forbidden forest, caught Harry's eye. As it came closer it turned out to be dozens upon dozens of small, black dots. "Commander, what are those?" he asked, even thought he though knew who they were. Knowles narrowed his eyes to see better, then his eyes grew wide. "Death Eaters," he yelled. Quickly, gowns inside. He didn't have to tell Harry something twice. Both of them ran round the huge grounds and chased everyone inside. Harry was the last person to enter. He closed the front doors and put a wrong charm on them so they wouldn't give away, or be opened with or without magic except for the person that put the charm on them. Commander Knowles put a strong locking charm on the doors to the Great Hall once everyone was in the room. Then jumped up on the teacher's table. Sonorous. "Listen up everyone. We just discovered that we're under attack. The Death Eaters will be here in about 15 to 20 minutes. Please stay calm and let the Aurors handle this. However, if some of you have some dueling experience and want to help us, just come to me." Quietus. Knowles jumped off the table, his Aurors flocking round him already. "What was that all about?" Neville asked Harry as he joined them. "Didn't you hear? We're under attack," Harry replied. The little group of red dragons, minus the 2 professors, quickly gathered round Harry. "How many are there?" Hermione asked. "A few dozen. Do you have a plan or not, Wonder Boy?" Draco asked. Harry took out an old parchment from his jeans and put it on the table. "I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good," he said, tapping the parchment, and a second later they were looking at the Marauders map. "I didn't know that you had a thing like that," Draco said. "But it's damn good that you did." Harry smiled and beckoned Commander Knowles over to them. When the man was there, Harry showed him the map and explained how it worked. The commander's face lit up and he smiled as he watched the Death Eaters enter the school grounds. "What are these passages here? I've never seen them before," he said. "That's secret passages out of the school," Harry replied. "Now, this one here is caved in and this one is under the Whomping Willow. The only ones we have to watch, just in case, are these 5 here." Harry pointed them out on the map. "Whose idea was it to make this map?" Knowles asked after waving Crumb over. "Moony, Padfoot and Prongs." Harry smiled a marauder grin. He had left Wormtail out for a reason. "Never heard of them, but you be sure to thank them for me. Agent Crumb, you are to take some of the Aurors and place them at this passage here, and these 2 here." "Understood. Yes sir," Crumb replied. Harry noticed the way Crumb looked at the Marauders map. He could almost see how the wheels in Crumb's head were working at top speed. He made up his mind. "I'll go with Agent Crumb if you don't mind, Commander," Harry said. "That way you can have the map here." "All right. But you be sure to be at the same spot as Crumb, Mr. Potter. We don't want to lose someone like you to a bunch of idiots." "Yes sir," Harry replied. While Crumb was off gathering 8 other agents, Harry talked to his group. "Potter, why did you volunteer to go with Crumb?" Draco asked. "I don't trust him, and did you see the way he was looking at the map?" "Why don't you trust him?" Ginny asked. "I'll tell you when this is over," Harry said. He looked over to Crumb and saw him waiting by the doors to the Great Hall. "Got to go and keep an eye on the guy. See you all later. Don't go and do some stupid heroic deed, Potter." Draco sneered. "You're not Hercules. And stay out of trouble," Fred said. "No, wait, that's impossible for you," George finished. But seriously, be careful, Harry. I promise. With that, Harry walked over to the waiting oars. Crumb didn't look all too happy having Harry with him, but kept his anger in check. You show the way, Potter. He growled. Harry nodded and led them through the corridors of Hogwarts. It took them some time to reach the first of the secret passages, the one inside the one-eyed witch on the 5th floor. The password to open this one is Descendium. Got it? Harry asked the 2 oars that were supposed to stand guard. The 2 men nodded and positioned themselves in the shadows on each side of the statue. In the end, all the oars were at their posts. Harry and Crumb were in the dungeons under the castle. Harry knew that this passage was furthest away from everybody, and he suspected that Crumb knew this too, as he had insisted that he and Harry took that one, claiming it to be the most endangered one. Potter, there's something I need to ask you. What is it, Crumb? Harry asked, trying not to sound suspicious. Is Hermione single? Harry turned and looked at him. Yeah, why? Just wondering. Harry turned again to look out one of the small windows in the cell that were above the ground. And Crumb didn't say anything for a while. What have you been doing since Hogwarts was shut down? Crumb asked suddenly. I'm a librarian in my hometown. Harry lied smoothly. He walked out of the cell and into the corridor. Crumb followed. We could use someone like you, you know. Crumb said after another long silence. I don't want to join the Aurors, Harry replied, tensing even more. He was sure he knew what was coming now. I didn't mean the Aurors. They are nothing compared to the Black Snake's order. Neither is Voldemort or the Order of the Phoenix, come to think of it. Crumb added as an afterthought. All right, Harry hadn't been expecting this. He turned around quickly, making it looking like an ordinary move. His face held no emotion and his eyes were stone hard, glowing in a bright, but ice-cold, green. Crumb took a few steps backwards. Harry was only like this when he met Voldemort. Harry smiled coldly. My dear Victor Crumb, he said, and the temperature dropped a bit. You have just given me valuable information. That wasn't too smart of you. But I couldn't have expected something else from a black snake. Suddenly Crumb had his wand out and was pointing it at Harry, who only raised an eyebrow. Too bad you won't be able to tell it to anyone. Crumb growled. Voldemort might have failed to kill you, Potter, but I won't. Avada Kedavra. Harry just stepped aside and the spell shoot past him. Won't even give me a chance, Black Snake? He asked in a playful, but deadly way. And I think you really should work on your aim. Let's duel. Crumb growled. Draco, do you know anything about the Black Snake's order? Harry asked Draco telepathically, while taking out his wand. The 2 of them had discovered the ability after their first mission. That order that as working before Voldy's first rise to power. Didn't he destroy them or something? Draco replied. Not quite. Crumb's won and he just offered me a membership. Oh, and we're about to duel. Harry replied while getting into the starting position, watching Crumb all the time. What? And there's no need to sound so bloody happy about it. Where are you? / The 3rd corridor on the left from the Slytherin common room. I think Crumb just said something about your mother being a bitch. / All right, he's dead. No one talks about my mother like that. I'm telling Knowles and we'll be there in 5. Draco blocked him out after that. Harry turned back to Crumb, realizing that the guy had been talking for quite a while now. Are you going to babble all day long like an old crone, or are we going to duel? Harry asked in an icy voice. Crumb growled like a wolf. Harry watched him carefully, waiting for the other man to make the first move. Stupefy. Crumb yelled suddenly. Harry blocked it with a shield charm. Nice try, Black Snake. Now it's my turn, he commented. Perutilus. Crumb was suddenly captured in a cage of pure electricity. Potter, you disappoint me. Big time. Crumb pointed his wand at Harry. Proglowa. Harry was blown backwards. Crumb had used an extremely powerful banishing charm. Harry hit Draco and Knowles, who were just turning the corner. Holy shit, Draco said as Harry hit them. The commander and Draco helped Harry up and the 3 of them looked over to where Crumb was. The cage around him was gone. Expelliarmus. Harry yelled and Crumb's wand landed a few feet in front of him. Draco and Knowles began to run towards Crumb, who got an insane grin on his face. He put a hand in one of his pockets and took out a little glass orb, the mething thick and black. We will meet again, Lord of the Light. Crumb said and threw the glass orb as hard as he could at their feet. It shattered and let out a thick, black smoke that quickly filled the corridor from top to floor. "Oh, this is ridiculous," Harry said angrily. "Lenarigus." The smoke cleared at once, but Crumb was long gone. "Well, it was a nice cleaning spell you used, Potter," Draco said. "And we did get important information." "You did well, Mr. Potter," Knowles said while picking up Crumb's wand. "Who's going to watch this passage now?" "We could close it," Harry suggested. "Good idea. I'll be leaving you too. Got to get back to the Great Hall. Those Death Eaters have begun to get really cheeky." Draco looked after the commander for a while until he rounded the corner. Harry had moved into the cell closest to them, and Draco followed after another second. "How are we going to block it?" he asked. "And why didn't you suggest that before?" "I wanted to know where Crumb stood," Harry replied, putting his hand on the floor. "And this is how we're blocking the passage." His whole arm began to glow golden and, to Draco's surprise, the wall seemed to melt. It was as thought the wall was boiling water. Suddenly it froze like that and didn't move again. Draco looked at Harry in disbelief. "Why, you're an elemental." Harry only nodded. "But why didn't you tell us?" "It's something I prefer to keep secret, you know. It gives me the element of surprise. I discovered the ability after our first mission." "Well, it sure as hell surprised me," Draco said. "You should have seen your expression. Wish I had my muggle camera here," Harry replied. Draco whacked him at the back of his head. "Hey, let's just get back and kick some Death Eater's ass." In the Great Hall things were only worse. It turned out that all of the Aurors that had been guarding the secret passages had returned and had no idea why they had disobeyed orders. Also the women, that didn't want to join the fight, and the kids were placed in a corner of the Great Hall with a powerful shield charm put on them, and several Aurors were placed close by. Ginny was over there with them, playing with the kids to calm them down. Harry was so busy discussing tactics and plans with Ron, Hermione, Draco, Neville and the Weasley twins that he didn't notice that Knowles, Dumbledore, Snape, McGonagall and a man he had never met before come up behind them. "Why don't we just use the locking charm and lock the Death Eaters out?" Neville asked. "We have already put them on the main doors, Neville, but unfortunately that means that we're locked in here too," Harry said. "Can't one of the house elves go and get help?" "House elves can't travel out of Hogwarts by magic, sure they can pop around inside but not outside," Hermione said matter-of-factly. "Fred, George, I'm open for ideas," Harry said to the twins. "Well," Fred began, "if what you told us about the Black Snake's order is true, Harry, then I bet that those attackers out there aren't Death Eaters. Sherlock Holmes, the great detective, has come with his statement," Ron said sarcastically. "The Death Eaters wouldn't be so foolish to put their hope into a frontal attack," George continued. "Voldemort wouldn't be so foolish. Dr. Watson just made his diagnosis, and agrees with Mr. Holmes," Ron said. "Now that that mystery is cleared, could we get back to the matter at hand?" "They will most likely attack here. Here and here," Fred said, pointing it out on the Marauders' map. "And of course the astronomy tower. Now, we should ask Knowles to place his Aurors inside the statue of the Griffin on 3rd. In the secret room at the beginning of the stairs up to the astronomy tower, and in the corridor with the painting of Sir Cadogan, you know, the lunatic." "What about the house elves?" Hermione asked. "Wouldn't they want to help us guard the secret passages or something? Do you think we could keep them away?" Draco asked her. "All right, this begins to look good," Ron cut in. "Me, Hermie, Fred and George will look for Commander Knowles, Draco and Neville will find Dumbledore, McGonagall and Snape, and Harry will get Dobby." "Why do I get the house elves?" "Because they actually listen to you," Neville replied. The little group turned to their tasks and stood face to face with the people they wanted to find. There was a long, slightly embarrassing silence. "Just the people we've been looking for," Harry said, trying to get rid of the feeling he got when the grown-ups looked sternly at them. "Just like being caught in the middle of a prank." "Yeah, we've got T.'s plan that actually might," Draco began but was cut off by the man they had never met before. "We heard." The man said this in a tone that clearly said that he thought their plan, along with them, wasn't worth his attention at all. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Hawkins. Richard Hawkins. Nice to meet you, Mr. Hawkins," Harry said. He didn't like the man at all and already knew where he had heard the name before. He decided to play with the man just like a cat plays with a mouse before eating it. "Aren't you the leader of the Order of the Phoenix's 2nd Squadron?" When the man nodded, Harry continued. That squadron is rumored to be one of the best. Weren't your squadron chasing that infamous criminal, what's his name? Sirius Black. He was hardly infamous. Hawkins replied. He was surprised. Said at the tone of Harry's voice and knew that the boy was playing with him. Hawkins was determined not to follow Harry's rules. He knew the boy was called the Game Master in the Ministry of Magic. Well, he was certain he could, and would, beat Harry in the big game. So you caught him? Harry asked lightly. Damn the boy. He was a lot smarter than he looked. Hawkins had no reply for that. He was CERTAIN. Harry knew about Black's escape and he was certain that Harry did this to mock him. Dumbledore decided to step in before a fight broke out. He had to say that he didn't like Hawkins' attitude, and it had been quite funny to watch him being outsmarted by a 19-year-old, but he had to step in before Hawkins lost his control. Harry was just standing there, calm as ever. Commander Hawkins, let me introduce to you Harry Potter. Ron Weasley, Fred and George Weasley, Neville Longbottom, Hermione Granger and Draco Malfoy. Charmed, I'm sure. Hawkins replied, glaring daggers at Harry. Let's take a look at that plan of yours. He finished, but the rest could hear that he had wanted to add, since we have nothing better to do, at the end. Harry, Draco, Hawkins and a few Phoenix agents were positioned at the bottom of the stairs leading up to the astronomy tower. Harry and Draco were talking together, sharing all the information they had about the Black Snake's order with the other. Hawkins and his group were at their posts, hardly breathing. When we get back, we've got to read up on the Black Snake's order in that book of yours. What did you call it? The Book of Orders, Draco said. I still have no idea where you found it. I didn't find it, it found me. Harry replied. Potter, the more I know about you the less I understand you. Draco said. This is boring. Can't those black snakes hurry up? The words were barely out of his mouth when they heard voices. Shit, shut up. Want to tell them that we're coming so that they can invite us to tea. And get your foot out of that trick step. Harry and Draco barely kept from laughing out loud. Even Neville had remembered to jump over that step when they had been in school. Get ready, Hawkins whispered. Now. The Phoenix agents jumped out of the room, right in front of the black snakes. Harry and Draco strolled calmly after. In position, the leader of the Black Snakes group said. Hawkins glared at the man, who took his hood down. They were looking at a blonde, blue-eyed man. He had a terrible cut from his eye corner to the corner of his mouth. Hawkins, the man said in a silky voice. So, we meet again. Wizards duel, no rules. Hawkins replied. Or are you a chicken, Kane? Asanorix. They could only watch as the black beam shoot towards Hawkins, one of the younger Phoenix agents. The agent screamed and fell to the floor, twitching and turning. A second later he erupted into flames. All that was left was a pile of ash. Damn, Draco said in disbelief. Hawkins didn't have to wait for his agents to do something. They began to shoot curses and spells towards the black snakes, who, in turn, fought fire with fire. Some of the curses they used were qualified to be unforgivable curses. 1 second Harry was dueling with a black snake recruit and in the next he was flying backwards after being hit by a banishing spell, the same Crumb had used. He landed way down the corridor, being stopped by a suite of armor that tried to play baseball. Shit, what is this? Blow Potter away day or something. He growled as he got up. Suddenly the black snake's leader stood in front of him, grinning like a mad monkey. I thought I saw you back there. He said. You're Harry Potter, aren't you? Last time I checked, yeah. And welcome to the 21st century. Harry replied. It would be an honor if I could duel with you. Kane said. I hear you're quite good. Harry didn't say a thing. He didn't really have a choice, so he watched Kane carefully. The black snake walked in circles round him, trying to make him nervous. Crucio. Harry barely had time to get out of the way. Coenonym. As apparently nothing happened when the spell hit him, Kane grinned and pointed his wand at Harry again. Circularis. He yelled. But to Kane's surprise the spell came out of the wrong end of the wand, towards him, and a second later he was frozen to the spot. You disappoint me, Black Snake. Big time, Harry said. Why? Oh, you should have known that that spell turns the point of the wand. He let Kane stand there and glare at him, and hurried back to help the Phoenix agents. About time you joined us, Potter. Draco yelled. We were getting worried. I had a little vermin a la Cain problem. Both of them laughed. The fight was over. To Harry's surprise, the whole thing hadn't lasted more than 15 minutes. Harry told Drive, ACO, what had happened between him and Cain, and Draco told him a bit about what had happened while he was gone. None of them noticed Hawkins coming up behind them until the man cleared his throat for the third time. Yes? Harry asked, sounding so much like a Slytherin that it was scary. Where's Cain? Hawkins asked. Down the corridor, Harry replied before he turned back to Draco. You think I should check on Dobby and the rest of the house? Elves. The words were barely out of his mouth when Dobby himself popped up. Mr. Dumbledore, sir, sent Dobby to tell Harry Potter, sir, and Draco Malfoy, sir, to come down to the Great Hall. Thanks, Dobby. How are the other elves doing? Are they happy with their new task? Dobby's face broke out into a huge smile. Oh, they like to watch the secret passages for Harry Potter, sir. He squealed happily. Draco was about to go after them when someone put a hand on his shoulder. He turned and stood face to face with Hawkins. He's friends with the house elves. The older man asked in a disgusted tone. And they actually listened to him. He's friends with lots of creatures that you wouldn't even consider looking at. Draco growled to the commander while walking down the corridor. Don't try to understand him, Commander, and don't underestimate him. That could prove to be fatal. There was complete chaos in the Great Hall. Nearly everyone in the room were injured and spells shot through the windows and bounced off the walls. It looked like a battlefield from the World Wars. When the two boys entered, they saw Commander Knowles running towards them, ducking and jumping away from spells that came flying. There you are. Hurry up. This way. The commander ran back again, followed by Draco. Harry walked calmly through the spell rain, not being hit even once. A minute later, the three of them were in the room behind the teacher's table. Ron, Hermione, the twins, Neville, Snape, McGonagall and Dumbledore were hanging over the Marauders map. Here they are, Albus, Knowles said upon entering. Dumbledore turned and mentioned Harry and Draco over to them. Thanks to Mr. Longbottom's bravery, we have discovered that the group of black snakes that you and Commander Knowles saw, Harry, only was the first squadron, to put it in military terms. We need to send someone to the Ministry of Magic and the Order of the Phoenix with letters for help. Mrs. thought the black snakes are using every agent they have on this attack. The headmaster said. Where do we two come in? Harry asked. Well, Mr. Weasley here, Dumbledore nodded to Ron. Told you that you two are animagus and that you can transform into phoenixes. Harry and Draco looked guiltily at each other, then nodded. You know the way phoenixes can pop around without apparating, if you follow me. Well, one of you could pop to the Order of the Phoenix and the other to the Ministry of Magic. Hermione said all this extremely fast. Harry thought over this for a moment. All right, I'll go. Draco, do I even have a choice? Draco asked sarcastically. Harry concentrated and began to glow white. He shrunk, got feathers, wings and a tail. In his place was a pure white phoenix with green eyes. Harry took a round room to try out his wings, then landed, to everyone's surprise, on Snape's shoulder. Show off, Draco muttered, making Harry glare at him. The blond boy concentrated and began to glow silver. And a second later a silver phoenix stood in his place. Draco landed on Snape's other shoulder after a round in the room. The potion master glared at the two birds but didn't say a thing. Where are you going? Harry asked Draco telepathically. Well, the ministry's kind of out of question, cause they would have kicked me out before you could say Quidditch if they found out that I'm a Malfoy. Draco replied. What if we meet somewhere in the middle and join our groups together? That would give us some time to plan too. He continued. Good idea. We'll meet at the Stonehenge. If one group isn't there, the other waits. Deal. Deal. Dumbledore held two parchments as he turned to the phoenixes. Harry, he said, this letter must be delivered to Commander Brian Calloway, and only him. The only man gave the letter to the white phoenix and it was gone with a pop. Harry felt like he was riding the wind. No, he felt as if he was the wind. It was wonderful and relaxing. There he could see the ministry. It was extremely large, looking a bit like the Empire State Building. As Harry popped up in the Aurors part of the ministry, several of the people there gave a yell of surprise. Jumped out of the way or tried to curse him. One or two even fainted. And those people called themselves Aurors. No wonder Voldemort's got such a strong hold on the wizarding community, he thought. Harry let his senses guide him to a door labeled, Conference Room. He could hear voices from inside. He used the element of air and made the doors open, then flew in. The room was deadly quiet. Harry spotted Calloway right opposite the doors, at the other end of the table. He flew over and gave the letter to the man, then settled on the table. Calloway read it, then jumped up, barking orders. Hogwarts being attacked by black snakes. There was a gasp in the room. Talbot, get your squadron ready and into this room at once. You too, Merrick. The people room quickly got up and ran to their tasks. Calloway looked back at the phoenix that was sitting at the middle of the table. Very well. You'll have to wait here until I come back and then lead us to the school. Calloway stood up and left the room. The letter was lying forgotten on the table. Harry flew over to it and read it. Commander Calloway. Hogwarts is opened again but, unfortunately, under attack by the Black Snake's order. We ask for your help as the situation is rather hopeless. Follow the Phoenix, he knows what to do and use brooms. Albus Dumbledore. This makes it a lot easier than I thought. Wonder how Draco's doing. Draco, who had had a longer way to ride the wind, as he called it, had just arrived at the headquarters. He was a silver beam of light because of his speed and people threw themselves out of his way, not caring if they had to pick up a huge pile of papers afterwards. The Silver Phoenix let his instinct lead him to Doctimus Doremus. In the end Draco almost collided with the man. What the hell is going on? Doremus yelled angrily. Draco gave him the letter and watched as the commander of the first squadron read it. Wayans, Watson, get that damned first squadron on their feet, and into their uniforms. Hogwarts is being attacked by those slimy, sniffling, slithering black snakes. The people in the corridor just stood there for a moment, then were off to find the members of the first squadron. Doremus looked at the phoenix who had perched at his shoulder. The letter says that you're our guide, he said. Hope you're up to it. Harry was at the moment flying in front of 40 Aurors on brooms. It was late at night, but since it was late in July, it wasn't so dark. There he could see the Stonehenge. He couldn't see Draco anywhere, so he began to fly lower and lower, in the end landing on a stone in the middle of the circle. The Aurors looked stunned at Harry as he found a good pose to sleep in and put his head under his wing. Well, the letter said to follow the Phoenix. Calloway said, if he stops here, we stop here. Half an hour later the tents were put up and several bonfires were lit. The Aurors were sitting around them talking about this mission and why in heaven's name they had stopped here of all places. Suddenly Harry snapped his head up. Draco. / No, it's the Tooth Fairy, came the sarcastic reply. You wouldn't have happened to see a silver phoenix up there, would you, ma'am? Or have you only flown lost? / Ha, ha, very funny, Wonder Boy. Now get your ass up here and help me with this bunch. / Coming, no need to bite my head off. / Harry spread his wings and took flight. The Aurors had no time to get their brooms, and in the next minute they saw about 100 people on broom in the air above them. They were about to fire spells when one recognized the crest. Stop. That's the order of the Phoenix, the man yelled. The Phoenix agents landed outside of the circle of tents, then walked into the middle of the circle. Harry and Drac were seated on the rock there waiting to see what would happen now. Calloway and Doremus met a few feet to their left. Doremus, you sure gave us a fright, Calloway said, shaking the other man's hand. Calloway, old boy, good to see you. What are you doing here, by the way? The White Phoenix came with a letter telling us that Hogwarts was under attack. You. Same, just that the Silver One delivered the letter. They seem to have planned to meet here. Everyone's eyes were on the two phoenixes, ready to give them a shock. Harry asked mischievously. You bet. / In front of the Aurors, the Phoenix agent's eyes, the two birds began to glow silver and white. A second later two young men stood there instead. That's Harry Potter, the Game Master, Calloway said in disbelief. And Draco Malfoy, Slytherin's silver snake. Doremus cut in. Really? We'll have to take your word for that. Draco sneered to the two commanders. Harry just rolled his eyes. You want an explanation? He asked. Calloway and Doremus nodded and led them to Calloway's tent. The Aurors and the Phoenix agents began to settle down again. First, I want to know why you came with the letters, Mr. Potter, Mr. Malfoy. Doramus said as everyone sat down in chairs that popped up. Because that was the only way to get past the black snakes without them noticing. Harry replied, "Don't worry. Professor Dumbledore, Co. M. Mander Hawkins and Commander Knowles know about it. In fact, it was their idea." "But why didn't you show yourselves before?" Calloway asked. "Security measures." Draco replied shortly. "Just one more question," Doramus said. "What are we going to do with the two of you now?" "Well, as I see it, there's two options," Draco said in a philosophical tone. "You can either kick us out of here, call us traitors and then get caught by the black snakes when you attack them. Or you can let us stay here, help you plan, let you past the black snakes' guards, and help you fight them. Your choice." Now that was deep, Harry said sarcastically. "Thank you. I do try my best, you know." The two commanders looked at Harry and Draco as thought they had grown another head. The Potters and the Malfoys been enemies from as far back as anyone could remember. Yet the last children of each line were sitting in front of them, talking like old friends. "All right, you can stay," Doramus said in the end. "But you are under our commando. If we tell you to pull out, you obey." "Got it." "Yes, sir," the boys said at the same time. "I guess you have other plans, Potter." / "Of course I have. They don't call me the Game Master for nothing. / "Now, I want you to tell us everything you know about the Black Snake's position and how the fight was going when you two left." Calloway said. Ron, Hermione, Neville, Ginny and Fred and George were sitting together in a corner of the Great Hall. It was early in the morning, they could see the sunrise through the windows and at the enchanted ceiling. It was bathed in beautiful colors, light pink, yellow and light blue. A few small clouds were silently gliding over them. Hermione had fallen asleep and her head was leaning on Ron's shoulder. Ron had put his arm round her. It just seemed so natural to do that. Ginny was sleeping in one of the sleeping bags the teachers had conjured for the people in the Great Hall. Everyone was waiting for news about Harry and Draco and if their mission had succeeded. Dobby and his little army of house elves had taken over for the Aurors and the Phoenix agents so that they could get some rest. "What's taking them so long?" Ron asked for the 10th time. "It could be the Aurors," Neville suggested for the 10th time. "Maybe they don't move that fast. I mean, to get a whole squadron through, or up close to enemy lines is difficult. Harry explained it to me a while ago. Have you noticed that Harry doesn't wear his glasses anymore?" Fred asked also for the 10th time. Both he and Malfoy have changed incredibly. I mean, they seem to know a lot of things about leading troops into battle and where to be at what time. And the way they can change into any animal they want to, and McGonagall has never taught them how to become animagus. I know. There's just this feeling I get when I'm close to one of them. George said. It's as thought were near strong, ancient magic. It's especially strong around Harry. Ron, get your ass up from that seat and get everyone ready. / Ron jumped up in shock, Hermione fell and woke up. She glared at him, but stopped when she saw his expression. Harry, he whispered. Ron, are you doing what I'm telling you to? Or are you standing there like an idiot? Yes, I'm a telepath. Now get your ass moving. / Ron, what is going on? Ginny, who had taken that moment to wake up, asked. Harry's a telepath. Get everyone ready. Quickly. With that Ron ran off to the nearest Auror. Hermione, Ginny, Neville, Fred and George followed his example and woke up Hawkins, Knowles, and the rest of the Aurors and the Phoenix agents. When everyone was gathered round Ron, he told them that Harry was a telepath and that he had asked Ron to get them ready. Suddenly there was a yell of surprise from outside and they ran to the windows. When they looked out they got a glimpse of Harry on a broom, diving towards the ground with about 40 Aurors and agents following. A second later there was a full-scale battle going on. They could hear Harry giving orders as thought he hadn't done anything else his whole life. Phoenix left. Aurors to the right. The group did this faster than Ron thought was possible. To his, and everyone else's, great surprise about 20 or so black snakes did the same as the Aurors and Phoenix agents. What is going on? Hermione was in hysterics. Why are those slimy bastards moving? They must be ours. Commander Knowles said. Must Knight. Smart move that one. The black snake's order started to back up towards the lake but were suddenly cut off. Drac. O swooped down from behind with somewhere around 40 men and attacked their backs. The black snakes were now getting panic and started to move towards the front doors of Hogwarts. Are we going to let them have all the fun? Hawkins asked and turned. He found his group of agents and went towards the doors. Knowles and the group by the window looked at each other for a moment then followed. They flew. N.D. Hawkins waiting for them by the doors. Together they ran out and attacked the black snakes from the side. Harry glimpsed a group of people coming out of Hogwarts to help them, then quickly had to get out of the way as his opponent aimed a spell at him. Harry used the first spell that popped into his head. That happened to be the Jelly Legs Jinx. The black snake hadn't expected something like that, so he had no time to react. Harry stunned the man. He was about to attack another black snake when the man yelled, "Phoenix!" Something from behind him hit his wand and he lost it. Damn! Out of nowhere the Gryffindor sword appeared. I guess Draco was right about calling me Lucky Luke. He thought and picked it out of the air. Suddenly there was someone who noticed that there seemed to be more and more of the black snakes. It seemed that for every black snake that fell, 2 would take its place. Harry managed to stun one of the newcomers. As he kneeled over the body he saw that the man was wearing a white mask. He quickly checked the man's arm, finding the dark mark. "Curse you, Crumb," he hissed, then began to concentrate. "Everyone. Those are Death Eaters. The black snakes are being backed up by Voldemort. Get inside. // The message reached everyone that was fighting for Hogwarts' safety. No one doubted Harry and they began to retreat towards the castle. The black snakes noticed and began to push even harder. In the end they managed to close the doors of Hogwarts and put powerful protective charms on them. Harry had summoned his wand using telekinesis. To tell the truth, he was as surprised when he discovered that he had that ability as well. Draco came over to him and leaned on the doors. "Just where in heaven's name is your luck when we need it?" he asked in a flat tone. "It went on vacation 2 days ago," Harry replied. Suddenly he saw Ron, Ginny, Hermione, Neville, Fred and George running towards them. They were followed by Knowles, Hawkins and Dumbledore. "Harry, we've been so worried about you," Ron said when he reached them. Hermione and Ginny hugged him first, then Draco. Draco just stood there like an idiot, not knowing what to say or do. He had never been hugged like this before. "Get used to it, Malfoy," Harry said, smiling. "Good to see you again, Mr. Potter," Knowles said. "But where's the rest of the army?" "You mean those we didn't use in the attack?" Draco asked. "How many Aurors and Phoenix agents did you get exactly?" Hawkins asked. 40 Aurors and 100 Phoenix agents," Harry replied. "We used 80 in the attack and had 20 go undercover. Where's the 40 that should be left?" Dumbledore asked. "Everywhere and nowhere," Draco replied and didn't say another word about the matter. "Does the Ministry know that Hogwarts is under attack?" Neville asked. "Yep, but they can't do a thing without Fudge's permission. And we all know that the day he gives them will be the day Voldemort puts on a pink tutu, dances ballet outside the UN buildings and sings, 'We Are the World' by Michael Jackson," Harry said. The rest of the group chuckled a bit at that and they walked into the Great Hall. Harry was walking through the halls and corridors of Hogwarts. The place he had considered as his true home for more than 7 years of his life. He suddenly found himself in front of the painting of the Fat Lady and the entrance to the Gryffindor common room. "It's you," the Fat Lady said happily when she saw him. "Let me see if I remember your name for once. With your adventures it shouldn't be too hard." Harry stood there and watched in mild amusement. "It's Harry Potter, right? How have you been?" Harry replied, nodding. "Oh, you know, the usual. Just hanging around," the Fat Lady said, trying to cheer him up. Harry smiled. He had always liked the Fat Lady. And she had saved his life once. "Is it true what the other paintings have told me?" she asked. "Is there really black snakes and Death Eaters on the grounds?" "Unfortunately, yes." Harry told the whole story. Starting with Crumb's suggestion in the dungeons. "All I hope is that those 40 Aurors and agents we have left are on their way back with reinforcements," he finished. "Oh my, this was a sticky one." The Fat Lady looked worried. "So what are you going to do while you wait?" "I don't know." Harry's voice was tired. "It's tearing the others to wait like this and not knowing. And the mothers and children that are here. If only there was a way out of the castle that the marauders didn't find." The Fat Lady looked at him for a few seconds, then she ran from her frame as fast as she could. Harry looked up in time to see her turn a corner, and shook his head. "Even pictures are afraid," One hell of a situation I've gotten us into. Suddenly there was a cry from behind him and he spun around. On the floor laid a kid about 12 years old. He had brown hair and blue eyes. Harry walked over to him and helped him up. "You should be with your mother," he said kindly. "It's too dangerous for you to run around alone in the halls." The boy looked at him and his jaw dropped open. "Why, you're Harry Potter." Harry nodded. I'm sorry for interrupting you, sir, but I thought you were one of them, no offense. And I followed you just to be sure." Harry smiled and led the kid through the corridors towards the Great Hall. On the way he noticed that all the people from the paintings were gone. "Tell me, boy, what's your name?" Harry asked. "Nicholas Wolfe, sir," the kid answered. "The family has a history in Hufflepuff, but I don't want to be there. I'm thinking about Ravenclaw or Gryffindor." "You would do well in Gryffindor, Nicholas," Harry said, studying the boy. "You have the spirit of one." The kid swelled with pride. "What do you say about us being pen pals?" Nicholas missed a step then looked up at him. His mouth open in awe. "You want me to write to you? You don't want to." "Of course I do, sir. It's just so extraordinary." They had reached the Great Hall. Just outside the doors Harry stopped the boy. "Oh, and Nicholas, this is between you and me." Nicholas nodded and ran off to tell his mother that he had been talking to the Harry Potter. Harry was about to enter when the fat lady called to him from a frame right beside the doors. "Harry," she said, "we paintings have an idea to get the mothers and children out safely." Harry followed the fat lady down several corridors. In the end he stood in an empty classroom. All the people from the paintings were gathered in the room, even the Mad Knight Sir Cadogan along with 2 lions. When he entered the paintings shut up and the 2 lions stopped watching a snake at the opposite wall. There is a passage in the school that only the paintings know about. Not even the marauders found it. The fat lady said when the door closed behind Harry. "We have now decided to use it to get the mothers and children out." A wizened witch said. Harry listened closely. The paintings would lead the mothers and children through the passage. They would come up somewhere close to platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross. In the end they arranged that Harry would meet them by the fireplace in the potion classroom. Harry hurried back to the Great Hall and jumped up onto the Gryffindor table. "Sonorous," he said, pointing his wand at his throat. "Listen up everyone. The paintings of Hogwarts know a way to get the mothers and children out of here. It will be a long walk, but a lot safer than staying here. Every mother gather in the entrance hall with their kid. Quietus." When Harry jumped off the table he was cornered by Dumbledore, Knowles, Hawkins, Ron, Hermione, Neville, Fr. McGonagall and Snape. "What do you mean by the paintings of Hogwarts?" Hawkins asked. "Just what I said. People passed them on their way to the entrance hall." Harry spotted Nicholas dragging his mother along. "Why don't we know about this way?" McGonagall asked. Her voice was stern but still filled with hope. "The paintings never told us about it. I don't know why they didn't tell you. Ask them. And what are we going to do while they get away?" Snape's voice was tired. "When you're desperate, attack." Harry replied and pushed through. The group in the entrance hall consisted of 30 people. To his surprise Ginny was there too. "I'm going with them, just in case," she said before he could ask. Harry nodded to her. He was going to send BBY and a few other house elves with them, along with a ghost or 2. He led the group to the potions classroom. There he was greeted by the fat lady and some other people from the paintings. Dobby was there with a few other house elves he had picked, and nearly headless Nick was there with the Bloody Baron and the Fat Friar. Dobby pushed a rock and the back wall of the fireplace opened. The fat lady and her friends led the way, while the ghosts, the house elves and Ginny took the rear. "I finally have a chance to get my head completely chopped off and join the headless hunt, but I get sent away," Harry heard nearly headless Nick say as the wall closed. As Harry entered the Great Hall, Draco shook his hand. "Don't thank me," Harry said. "Thank the paintings." "What the hell are you talking about? I was welcoming your luck back to work." Harry smiled and shook his head. He'd never understand a Malfoy, and least of all this one. There was an angry yell from behind them. Harry and Draco quickly turned only to see Hermione and Ron in the middle of another huge fight. Dumbledore and his staff, the 2 commanders, the Phoenix agents and the Aurors turned too. Fred, George and Neville were backing off. "I'm just saying that this will be worse than anything we've gone through." "You should have gone with Ginny," Ron said. "You'll not be safe here." What are you saying, Ronald Weasley? Hermione asked angrily. That I need you to babysit me. She used the whole name. Draco whispered in shock. He's so dead. Harry nodded in agreement. Everyone, except him and Draco, turned their back to the fighting couple. If something nasty happened, they didn't want to be witnesses. If you were such a big know-it-all, Hermione, then you should have gone when you had the chance. You are a big-headed, screwed-up idiot, Ronald Weasley. For your information, I'm old enough to take care of myself. With that, Hermione stormed out of the Great Hall, leaving a dumbfounded Ron in her heels. Ooh, that must have hurt, Draco said, voice full of sympathy. Come to think of it, I've never heard Granger swear until now. Got to write it down. He found a little notebook and a pen in one of his pockets. Why would you want to record something like that? Harry asked, still looking after Hermione. Can use it for blackmailing maybe, or as a reply when she comments my vocabulary. Harry shook his head. I'm going to talk to her. See you later. If you get out alive, Potter. Draco didn't even look up. Harry found Hermione in the library. She was sitting in the back, in a dark corner, facing the wall. When he came closer, she spoke. If you're going to side with him or tell me to see things from his point of view, don't waste your breath, Harry. Harry was a bit taken back, but that wasn't what he was going to say anyway. When are you going to tell him that you love him? He asked instead. Hermione opened her mouth to reply, but let it hang open when she realized what Harry had said. What the hell are you talking about? Well, it is quite obvious. The way you look at each other. The way you're avoiding each other. The way you fight almost every time you're in the same room. It's as thought you're already married. Harry ignored her glare and continued. I can see it, Herm, on both you and him. Hermione cut him off. That idiot. Caring about me. Yeah, right, and Voldemort is becoming the new Mahatma Gandhi. Herm, I'm serious. Just confront him about it. Go straight to business, corner him. Sometimes we men need a little push to admit our feelings. Harry left before she could answer. One down and one more to go. Ron was playing chess with Draco when Harry came over to their table. Ron, we need to talk. Alone. Harry looked pointedly at Draco. All right, I'm going. He would have beaten me anyway. So I won't miss much. Harry sat down in Draco's seat and moved the pawn 2 paces. Why do you treat Herm as thought she's crystal? Ron lost his concentration and did a wrong move. Because I care for her. He replied quietly, blushing. But she hates me, so it's the end of the story. Reminds me a bit of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. You really think so? Harry asked, considering his own move. The way she looks at you, you would think she claimed first right on you. He moved the king to the left. Give her a chance to speak up, see things from her point of view. And try not to treat her as crystal. You think that would work? Ron moved his queen. Sure, just have some patience with her. Remember, she hasn't seen her parents for over a year. Harry moved his tower straight forward. How do I make her understand? Ron's queen took Harry's tower. Kiss her, Harry said simply, moving a knight. And you're sure about this? Can't say you have the biggest experience with girls. Ron took one of Harry's pawns. Trust me on this one. And when we're talking about the sun. Hermione had walked through the doors of the Great Hall. Here's your chance, Ron. Don't let her go. All right, here it goes. Wish me luck. Ron stood up and walked towards Hermione. When she spotted him, she hurried towards him. They met in the middle of the Great Hall. Before Hermione could do a thing, Ron grabbed her and kissed her. After a minute she put her arms around his neck. Fred and George began to wolf whistle, the rest cheered. You're doing. Draco stood beside Harry's seat at the Gryffindor table. Harry nodded. How did you manage it? Checkmate, Draco, was the reply. Harry moved his last tower on the chessboard and left. Draco looked at the board and saw that every one of Harry's pieces were cornering Ron's king in a neat circle. How does he do it? He asked himself. That guy could play the big game in his sleep. Harry watched Hermione and Ron for a while, then turned to the Marauders map and Fred and George and Neville. It's not Romeo and Juliet, Ron. It's A Midsummer Night's Dream. So, let me get this straight, Draco said. We're going to run out like maniacs. Shoot spells all over the place, and hope that the Black Snakes and the Death Eaters get scared and run back home too. Mummy, add a few more tricks from Harry and you have it. Ron said. We're so dead. Do you have anything better? Harry snapped. The three of them were sitting in the room behind the teacher's table along with Dumbledore, Knowles, Hawkins, Neville the Weasley twins, Hermione, McGonagall and Snape. None of them had slept in a while. The mothers and children had left 3 days ago, and the fat lady, her picture friends, Dobby and his elves and the three ghosts hadn't returned yet. Hermione had been in the library since then, hoping to find something that could help them, but not knowing what that might be. Neville and Sprout had been helping Madame Pomfrey to heal the wounded. Snape and Draco had been making potions round the clock. The other professors, Knowles, Hawkins, Fred, George and Ron had been planning. But the more tired they got, the worse their plans became. In the end, Harry had ordered them all to get some sleep. "No need to get touchy about it," Draco replied sharply. "What are you going to do anyway? Go over to them and yell, 'Boo!' That really would have scared them, you know." Harry was glaring murderously at him, ready to attack. Draco returned the glare gladly. A fight between the two of them had been coming for quite some time now. Neville under the table, just in case. Knowles, Hawkins, Snape, McGonagall and Hermione reached for their wands. Dumbledore just watched the two boys calmly. "No, come on. If you've got a better plan, tell me." Harry growled telepathically. "Why? You never listen to me anyway." Draco said. "Maybe if you sometimes tried to make sense, I would." Harry replied. "You don't have a plan, and you don't want anyone to know." / Who said that I didn't have a plan? I have one, and it's a bloody brilliant one too. / Tell me then. / They didn't have time for anything else as there was a loud bang from the Great Hall. Everyone jumped up, Fred, George and Neville knocking their heads in the process, and ran out of the room. Harry was the first to look out one of the windows in the Great Hall. Down on the ground, a few yards from the wall, stood a black snake and a Death Eater. When they saw Harry, they made sure he understood they only wanted to talk. "What do you want?" Harry yelled. "The Dark Lord, Lord Voldemort, does not have the time to stay here all year through, so he has a suggestion for you, Potter." The Death Eater replied. Knowles, Hawkins, Draco, Hermione, Ron, Fred, George, Dumbledore, Snape. McGonagall and Neville were at the other windows now. "What is this suggestion, Death Eater?" Hawkins asked. "His Highness against Potter in a duel, no rules." "What about the Black Snake's order? Is their leader informed about this?" "Commander Krum is fully aware of the situation, Potter." The Black Snake replied. "And he does not have anything against it." Krum. Hermione turned to Harry. "Harry, what the hell happened down in the dungeons? I will have to think about it." Harry yelled back, ignoring her. "We don't have the time of the world, Potter. Come back at sunset." Harry didn't listen to the protests that were hailing over him. He jumped down from the window and walked out of the Great Hall. No one thought about following him. "Is the boy ill or something?" Hawkins asked. "None in particular. I'm beginning to wonder about that too," Ron said. "Draco, what happened down in the dungeons?" Hermione asked. Harry didn't trust Krum from the beginning. "Why? Why are you asking me? Do you think I know everything that's going on inside his head? You came up with Harry from the dungeons, and without Krum. I want to know what happened," Hermione demanded. "Damn, and we who hoped no one would notice Krum gone," Draco said sarcastically. She just glared at him. "All right, they had a little duel, Krum got away, everyone's happy, nice to meet you, ciao." He said this extremely fast and walked away. "Harry isn't going to duel with Voldemort, is he?" Neville asked, his voice was surprisingly calm. "And what does a no rules duel mean?" "They are allowed to do every little dirty trick they know," Hawkins replied. "They can use swords, daggers, wands, hands and feet, animagus shapes, you name it. Except apparating, that's the only thing not allowed." Dumbledore had walked over to Draco, who was sitting at the Gryffindor table. The old headmaster sat down too. "Harry is a good leader for the Red Dragon's order, isn't he?" Draco nearly choked on the pumpkin juice he was drinking. "Excuse me, you were saying what?" "I was saying that Harry was a good leader for the Red Dragons." Dumbledore replied calmly. "You're his left hand and Ron his right, if I guess correctly." "Are you saying that we're the Red Dragons?" Draco asked, acting surprised. "That's insane, no offense." He added quickly. "Draco, why do you think I sent those invisibility cloaks when Harry found you more dead than alive?" Draco had no answer to this. Come to think of it, he hadn't seen those cloaks since Harry had asked him about copying books. Got any more proof, Professor? He asked, giving up on lying. I saw you when you and Harry turned into a griffin and a dragon the day Hogwarts was reopened, and flew over the castle. Tell me, when did you become animagus? And how can you turn into a phoenix and a griffin or a dragon? Dumbledore asked. He had been wondering about this for a long time now. Animagus, Professor. The two of us are animagus. Dumbledore had expected something but not this. No one had been able to turn into whatever animal they wished whenever they wanted since Merlin. But how? I'd rather not talk about it. And don't try to get anything out of Harry. 'Cause he ain't going to tell you. Draco hastily got up and walked out of the Great Hall in search for Harry. Harry was sitting in the Gryffindor common room, calmly looking into the fire. He didn't even turn around when the portrait, occupied by one of the fat lady's friends, opened and closed. You told Dumbledore, didn't you? He asked. Told and told, Potter. The guy knew about it before it was even started. Draco looked into the fire. Do you see something that I can't in the fire, or are you just staring into it for fun? Thinking, Harry replied. See what those two things have in common, but, oh well. Draco sat down in a chair and sighed. You're going to accept the challenge. Harry nodded. But what if you don't kill him? What if he kills you? What if you kill each other? What if? Don't, Draco, Harry cut him off. There's too many what ifs to enumerate. And you're sure that Doremus and Calloway will be here by tomorrow? That task you sent them on does take some time, you know. They'll be here. That's why I dragged the fight out by not suggesting a duel between me and Voldemort in the first place. We had to wait for old Snakeface to make the first move. I hate it when you're good at the big game. Harry smiled slightly and shook his head. Drco, listen up. They're probably going to try to attack you and the rest under the duel. As my second in command. Thought I have no idea how I became the leader. You're responsible for defending Hogwarts. Me. But I've never commanded anyone by myself, you were always there. Let's just call it your duty. And if you don't, I'll tell Lisa, Annie, Max and Clara about each other. You wouldn't, Draco said in utter shock. How could Harry know about them? That's what you get when you have 4 girlfriends at the same time. Potter, you would have made a heck of a good Slytherin. Alright, I'll do it, but you do realize that this is blackmail, don't you? Of course I do, that's the point. Wonder Boy. Draco mumbled. The duel was set for midday the next day. Everyone inside Hogwarts told Harry to get some sleep. Snape even threatened with a sleeping draft if he didn't listen. In the end, Harry gave in to them. Madame Pomfrey insisted that he should be in the hospital wing, so that he could get some peace and quiet. As his head hit the pillow, Harry realized how tired he was, and in the next minute he was fast asleep. He was surrounded by darkness. Or, better said, was floating in it. He seemed to be the only source of light. Suddenly thousands of golden beams shot towards him from every direction, and hit him forcefully all over. It wasn't exactly painful, but he got the feeling that a part of him that had been missing was back. The light surrounding him increased by the second. Harry sat up in bed. The dream seemed so real, it was as thought it had happened in real life. He looked out the window. The sun had been on the sky for quite some time now. When he walked into the Great Hall, the room went completely quiet. Harry sat down at the Gryffindor table and started to eat, acting as thought nothing was about to happen. Harry, you alright? Ron asked. Never better. Oh, I can't take this anymore. Hermione broke down in Harry's lap. First your parents get killed, then it's the Philosopher's Stone, the Chamber of Secrets and the Triwizard Tournament. And now the duel with Voldemort. How can you come with all this? Harry looked confusedly at her, then turned to Ron and Draco, who were watching. Ron shrugged. Draco took this opportunity to taunt Harry. Considering that he hadn't said anything ever since Harry walked into the Great Hall, it was a personal record. Get used to it, Potter. He said, using Harry's words. Hermione. Go of my arm. Sorry. She tried to compose herself. Ron came over and took her into his arms, letting her cry onto his shoulder. Harry looked at his watch. In 5 minutes he would face Voldemort in a duel that would decide the world's destiny. He started to walk towards the front doors of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Not one single, bloody, freaking year without the guy ruining it. I must be cursed, Harry thought before he made the doors open with telekinesis. Voldemort stood and faced the doors of Hogwarts, the Death Eaters and Black Snakes in a semicircle behind him. Harry, cold as ice, stopped walking a foot from him, the Aurors, Phoenix agents and professors in a semicircle behind him. I didn't think you would have the guts to come, Voldemort said. There's one thing I've got to ask you before we start, Harry said coldly, ignoring Voldemort's compliment. Why did you go after us in the first place? Because of your destiny, Harry. Now, shall we get ready? Harry only gave a little nod and gave his cloak to Draco so that it wouldn't get in the way. Voldemort was handed an evil-looking sword. The two opponents faced each other, none of them bowed, only gave a short nod. Voldemort was the one who gave the first blow. Amotervia. Harry quickly got out of the way. The curse would have made him blind if it had hit him. Sigertica. Sedema. Voldemort cast the counter curse just in time. The duel got more violent, both of them using old curses that nearly everyone had forgotten. Draco kept an eye at the Death Eaters and the Black Snakes as Harry had told him to. And could see that there was something wrong, but he didn't know what. I seem to have underestimated you, Potter. Voldemort growled as their swords met, while he was trying to keep Harry's wand away from himself. Suddenly he got a fist in the face. You, of all people, should know better by now, Harry replied as he danced out of the way of Voldemort's sword. Harry thanked his lucky star for the dancing and karate lessons he had taken in the summer after his 4th and 5th year. Smeltings had sent a letter to the Dursleys suggesting that Dudley should take those classes, and that it was good for his diet. Dudley, being the big idiot he had been, had only wanted to go if Harry went with him. And you should know that trusting someone without shaking hands is fatal. Now, the Death Eaters and Black Snakes attacked the Hogwarts group. Draco didn't waste time, and a second later the two groups met, spells and curses flying everywhere. To Harry it seemed as thought Voldemort had decided to use every trick he had in this duel. Something black erupted from his wand. It seemed to swallow everything it came close to. Harry didn't have time to wonder what it was. It crept up his legs, his stomach. In the end he was completely covered, from head to foot, and he couldn't move. The anger he had held in chess for several years now began to boil. Voldemort gaped when the black thing began to crack. Strong, golden light shining through the holes. The thing exploded, pieces flying everywhere. Harry was glaring at Voldemort in a way that even frightened even the Dark Lord himself. "You've pissed me off, Riddle," Harry whispered in a way that sent chills up everyone's spine. "Are you sure you want to take the consequences?" A ball of fire began to shape in Harry's hand and he threw it with all his might towards Voldemort, who had to throw himself on the ground to avoid it. Maybe he had underestimated Potter a bit more than he had thought. But if Potter used the elements, why shouldn't he? He got up and used air to lift his opponent high into the clouds, then he dropped him. Voldemort waited to see Harry fall towards the ground or at least float to it, but what he saw made his jaw drop. A pure white phoenix came shooting towards him like a bullet. Voldemort quickly calculated out what to do and when, then got ready. Just before Harry hit him he grabbed the phoenix by the neck and slammed it into the ground. Harry changed back into his human form, but Voldemort was sitting on top of him with his hands round Harry's throat. "Any last words, Potter?" Voldemort asked, tightening his grip. "You're an idiot, Riddle," Harry growled. He had gotten an idea of what to change into. His face grew into an oblong, flat, compressed snout, with sharp teeth. His body got longer. He got a long tail that served for balance. His arms got horrible claws and his legs got the shape of an ostrich. One of the toes got a crescent-shaped, deadly claw. Voldemort let go of the beast and backed off, but not fast enough. One of the back legs of the beast scraped his face up. One of the claws, the crescent-shaped one, made a scar from his forehead to his chin. His hands flew to his face. "What the hell are you?" Voldemort asked through his hands. "Never heard about dinosaurs, Riddle." The beast got up and came towards him. "This is a velociraptor. Let me tell you about it. Its brain is extremely big. They were extremely fast and hunted in well-organized packs, something that made them one of the most feared hunters. And one more thing, they were meat eaters. // Voldemort didn't even try to hide his fear. He was backing away from the creature. He had underestimated Harry more than he realized. The Dark Lord could see the natural intelligence of the reptile in its eyes. And with Potter's intelligence there too, the creature was the worst death anyone could meet. Harry jumped, and landed on top of Voldemort. His jaws about to bite the head of the man. He changed back into himself. That was a mistake. Voldemort kicked him off, then got up. Nice decorations you have there, Harry said, mentioning to the 3 scars from Voldemort's forehead to his chin. But isn't it a bit early? Christmas is 4 months away, you know. The 2 of them used telekinesis to summon their wands and swords to them, and began to duel again, this time using absolutely everything they had. Everyone, Death Eater as well as Red Dragon, had stopped dueling when Voldemort had used the black thing to surround and swallow Harry. Their mouths had dropped open when Harry turned into a velociraptor. Now, as the 2 of them began to fight in a more normal way, the onlookers got back to their own duels. Draco was jumping here and there to avoid spells. It reminded him a bit of Riverdance the show. Or some kind of a Russian dance. Potter, where the hell are Doremus and Calloway? He asked telepathically. They'll be here soon, Harry replied, and got hit by a Cruciatus curse a second later. Draco decided not to bother him anymore, and concentrated on his 2 opponents. Suddenly he noticed a large mass in different colors coming from everywhere on brooms. He thought he could see Calloway and Doremus in the front. When the help arrived it didn't take them long time to capture, or kill, all the Death Eaters or Black Snakes. The robes of their helpers were colored in their flag colors so that they could identify each other. Norway's red, white and blue, Sweden's blue and yellow, Germany's black, yellow and red, Canada's red and white flag, with the maple leaf, the flag of the USA. The Australian flag, China's red flag, with the 4 yellow stars. To say it shortly, every land and country was there. Now everyone stood in a circle round the fighting Harry and Voldemort. Both of them were bloody and pale due to the blood they had lost. Sweat on their brows. Voldemort, looking around, realized it was time for him to get out of there. This was a move he hadn't expected from Potter. He pushed Harry backwards with air and hit him in the guts with fire, took out a little orb, it was exactly the same as Crumb's, and threw it on the ground. It shattered, smoke surrounded him and a second later he was gone. Draco and the rest ran over to Harry when he didn't move. Someone get Madame Pomfrey. Help us to get him to the infirmary. Draco barked out. The newcomers came to life. Several coming forward to help levitate Harry, which ended up with Harry high in the air. At the end Snape exploded and took Harry to the MBLING about idiotic Aurors and stupid boys that ended up fried. About 500 of the Aurors from the different countries escorted the prisoners to the British Ministry of Magic. The rest began to set up camps all over the grounds. Ron, Hermione, Neville, Fred and George. Draco and all the other professors had followed Harry to the hospital wing, but now came back outside. Madame Pomfrey had chased even Dumbledore out. Out there they were met by Doremus and Calloway. Will he manage? Doremus asked. Have no idea. Ron replied. Madame Pomfrey chased us out. Good plan this, to get help from the other ministries of magic since we couldn't get from our own. Snape said. It sounded weird coming from him. Thank heavens that someone still has some brain left. Ron was beginning to wonder if Snape hadn't been hit by one spell too many. It wasn't our idea, Professor. Calloway replied. You should thank Mr. Potter for that. That's why he didn't suggest a duel between him and Voldemort before. Draco added, walked back into the castle and sat down at the Gryffindor table. It felt wrong somehow, to sit at the Slytherin table. He didn't feel at home there like he had when he had started school. Hedwig swooped down, carrying the Daily Prophet in her talons. Draco took it and told her where she could find her master. The owl hooted and flew off. He looked at the front page. His mouth would have fallen to the floor if it hadn't been stuck. Azkaban, the easiest place to escape from. By Colin Creevey. It has recently been discovered that all the prisoners in the feared prison Azkaban has escaped. The Dementors are also gone. We think that they have plans to rejoin you-know-who in his rise to power, just like last time. The word is that Minister Fudge got a warning from Albus Dumbledore, headmaster of the newly reopened Hogwarts, that this would happen. But didn't listen to him. I just have one question for you readers. Do we need a new Minister of Magic? We are in deep shit. Draco thought. I don't want to be there when Harry finds out. If he survives. Come on, Potter, you can't leave us. Now, a week passed by without Harry awakening. Everyone were getting more and more worried every day. Ginny, who had returned a day after the fight, had fainted when she had heard the story. Dumbledore and the other professors seemed to be planning something, not even the paintings knew what. Draco, Ron, Hermione, Fred, George, Neville and Ginny were sitting in the Gryffindor common room. A storm was going on outside. School would start in a few weeks, and the letters had already been sent out to the children. Who wants to deal? Draco asked. They were playing Exploding Snap. Neville took the cards. None of them talked. All you could hear was the fire in the fireplace, and the storm hat went on outside like a mad demon that was trying to get in. Hermione and Ginny had called Remus and Sirius a few days back, and they had yet to get a reply. Now, you're a cheery lot, aren't you? They turned towards the voice and found Harry standing there, leaning on the wall. Their mouths dropped open, then they jumped up and nearly ran him down. I knew you'd manage, mate. I knew it, Ron said. Is that why you asked which coffin we should choose for him not more than an hour ago? Ron glared at Draco. Hermione, Ginny and the others laughed. Everyone could see that Harry was changed. His eyes were harder and he was a bit more quiet. But else he was the same old Harry they knew. What do you say about playing Exploding Snap? Harry asked. Sure, why not? And this time, Potter, I'm going to win. Neville threatened in a friendly way. Maybe over him, but not over me, Ginny said, smiling evilly. I assume that the fight has already been in the papers. Harry asked in the middle of the game. Yup, and something else. Draco gave him the bit about the Azkaban escape. Couldn't have expected else. And, in my opinion, we really need a new minister. Was all Harry said about the case. They were interrupted. As the door to the common room opened and every professor, Calloway, Doremus, Hawkins, Knowles, Remus and a huge black dog came running in. There you are, Mr. Potter. Calloway sounded relieved. We were afraid something had happened to you. What are you doing out of bed? Madame Pomfrey came forward to examine him, but was stopped by a wall of air. What in heaven's name? Madame Pomfrey, I can assure you that I'm fine, Harry said calmly. And if I wasn't, this gang here, he mentioned to the group that sat round him, would have tucked me into bed before I could say Quidditch. Harry released her. Why didn't we do that? Draco asked. Because I would have kicked your ass from here to the North Pole if you did. / Good point. / The huge black dog came over to Harry, looking pointedly at him. Harry nodded. If you'll excuse me for a moment. He got up and went to the 7th-year boys' dorms followed by the dog. The others looked at each other, shrugging. After he had closed and locked the door behind him, and put a soundproof charm on the room, Sirius appeared in his human form. He appeared to be trying to hold his anger and relief in check. Would you be kind enough to explain a few things to me? The effort he put in stopping himself from killing Harry was heard easily. First you start this order, go on lots of missions that could kill you, and in the end you end up dueling with Voldemort. Sirius, calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Do you know what me and Moony went through when we got the owl from Hermione and Ginny? Telling us Crumb was a black snake. Is a black snake, in fact their leader. Quote, even worse. You and Malfoy leaving as phoenixes to get help. Your crazy attack at the Black Snake's camp. The Black Snakes being backed up by Voldemort and his Death Eaters. The days you were besieged, and the fights you had trying to break through. Your crazy duel with old Snakeface. The orders from nearly every country in the world. You being in a coma. Or something like that for. Sirius stopped as he got cold water poured on his head. Thanks, I really needed that. My pleasure. Harry replied, pocketing his wand. Did they tell you that we got Pettigrew? I do, and what did you say? We've got Pettigrew here. How did you get him? Sirius had forgotten why he came to yell at Harry, exactly what his godson had wanted. He came to me, said he did it to pay me back after I saved his life in my 3rd year. But you think it's more than that? Harry nodded. Well, if there is one thing I've learned over the years with you as my boss, always to trust your gut feeling. Why mine? And it's 1 year serious. 'Cause it's always right, and it feels like it's been years. Let's get back down. Harry, I'm not Finn. Yeah, I'm hungry too. How about if we get something to eat? I bet the house elves need some practice before the students return. Harry snapped his fingers and Sirius was back in his dog form. "After you," he said, holding the door open. Sirius walked out but gave Harry a look that clearly said that they would talk later. In the common room people were reading, talking, playing chess or exploding Snap. Harry looked round the room, then his gaze fell on Fred and George. The twins were reading books upside down in a corner. "So, whose idea was it to listen at the door?" Harry asked them as he came over. "Both of us. You were in the 5th year's dorm?" George asked. "No, the 7th year's." "Damn." Draco gave Ron 10 galleons. "Can't believe I'm losing to a Weasley. They did a bet on in which year's dorm you were." "Nev," Il said before Harry could even open his mouth. "Draco, how many times have I told you to stop gambling?" "Very many. But you've got to admit that taking dares is fun. Like you do with the girls. I wonder what your 4 girlfriends would say if they knew about each other." "We've been through this before, Potter, and I know you wouldn't dare to do that." "Wanna bet, Malfoy?" Everyone began to laugh, even Draco after a while. "Mr. Potter, are you sure you don't want to join the Aurors?" Knowles asked. "I've never met another plan the big game." Harry had just sent Hedwig to one of his agents in the American Ministry of Magic. He, and the rest of the Red Dragons group, had had much to do when they finally had returned from Hogwarts a few days ago. As he entered his office again, he saw Th. And a letter was waiting for him on his desk. Harry walked over and picked it up. It had the Hogwarts coat of arms. He opened it. "Dear Mr. Potter, we at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry would invite you and your friends to a feast at Hogwarts, to celebrate the capturing of the Death Eaters and Black Snakes and to the fact that we are opening the school again. The feast starts at 6 p.m. on the 4th of August. We hope dearly that you will come as we have planned this to be a special evening. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall." Harry had just finished reading when Draco, Hermione, Ron, Ginny, Neville, the Weasley twins, Remus and Sirius came in. "Harry, guess what? Neville began, then spotted the letter in Harry's hand. "Oh, so you know it then. Can we go?" Harry just looked back to the letter. "Don't tell me, you think they're up to something?" Draco asked sarcastically. "Why do you think that?" "The deputy headmistress part is missing. And we all know that McGonagall would rather be killed, cremated and buried 6 feet underground before she would leave that out." "How does he do that?" Sirius asked. "None in particular. But can we go?" Ginny and Hermione asked at the same time. "Please." They put on puppy faces. The twins doing the same. Harry raised an eyebrow at them. "I can't see why we shouldn't, and did anyone ever tell you that you're horrible at puppy faces?" The last bit was directed at Fred and George. Harry was wearing the Red Dragons uniform for finer occasions. Black, shining army boots, black jeans, the black belt with a buckle shaped as a dragon and had a wand holster. He had gotten it from Ron. A black button-up shirt with baggy sleeves, the necklace with the winged lion he had gotten from Hermione when she had been to Greece, blah. CK sunglasses and the cloak with the golden fastenings. He had also gotten a new haircut. His hair was short and spiky. Harry met up with the others in the corridor. Draco was wearing the same as him, but his cloak had silver fastenings. Hermione looked them up and down. "Who are you supposed to be? Men in Black or Zorro?" she asked. She herself was wearing a knee-long silver dress and had her hair in a beautiful bun. Ginny was wearing a golden dress robe and had let her hair down her back. Ron, Fred, George and Neville all were wearing red robes with the Gryffindor lion on the front and back. Sirius, who was coming as a human, had a black dress robe with gold and silver patterns. And Remus had a black dress robe too, but with a wolf head in silver on the front and back. "I think we're ready," Harry said. "Really? I didn't know. How did you find that out?" Draco asked. If you could bath and touch sarcasm they would have drowned by now. Harry just rolled his eyes then snapped his fingers. A second later they were all standing outside the Hogwarts main gates. "Wow, Harry, how did you do that?" "I have no idea. I just had this urge to snap my fingers." "Oh great, now he's going mad." For that statement Draco got whacked on the head by Ginny who had landed next to him. "Hey, no need to get violent here. Where's your sense of humor?" They walked up to the castle, Ginny and Draco fighting all the way. In the end Harry glared them both into silence. As they reached the entrance to the castle the door opened on their own. The group looked at Harry but he just shook his head. This time it wasn't him. They walked inside and into the great hall. The house tables were put together and the house banners hung over them. They were met by Dumbledore, McGonagall, Snape and every other professor in the school. "Ah, Harry, Draco, Ron and the rest of you, how nice of you to come," Dumbledore said. "Wouldn't miss it for all the jewels in the crown, Professor." Harry replied. "Potter, isn't it supposed to be, for anything in the world?" Draco asked. "Of course Malfoy," Ginny replied. "But doing what we do, that kinda doesn't fit in the big picture." Harry looked thoughtfully at the two of them, in the process missing the look Dumbledore gave him. They all sat down at the long table and food popped up. Harry was carefully studying every face at the table, searching for clues on what they were hiding. The professors were chatting happily with their former students. Nothing they did disclosed that something was going on. Suddenly Dumbledore stood up. "Now that we all are fed and watered, I would like to say a few words. First of all, I would like to thank the whole staff, and our guests, for not giving up in the darkest hour. Second, I would like to thank the Red Dragons for their work that led up to the reopening of Hogwarts. Now, I have 4 special thanks to 4 of our guests, too. Neville Longbottom and Ron Weasley for defending the castle against too many enemies to count." 2 house elves popped up, each of them giving a neatly folded something to Ron and Neville. The something turned out to be a red long cloak, its edges trimmed with white fur and a huge Gryffindor lion in gold at the middle of it. To Draco Malfoy for all his tributes to the light side. Even thought he was in Slytherin, he has a heart of a lion. Another elf popped up. The cloak it gave Draco was long and green. Its edges also trimmed with fur and a huge Slytherin snake in silver at the middle of it. And to Harry Potter for saving the school and the world in more occasions that we can even count. Harry got the same cloak as Ron and Neville. Suddenly Neville, Ron and Draco began to glow silver. Everyone stared at them, not understanding what was going on. Harry looked at the professors but, if you could judge by their faces, they had no idea of what was going on, not even Dumbledore. The house banners began to glow too. Brighter and brighter. Flapping here and there. T was as thought something wanted to come out. In the end it did come out. One thick, golden beam shoot out from the animal crests of each house. They came straight towards Harry, who didn't have time to react at all before he was hit. The light swallowed him and they couldn't see him anymore. Suddenly 3 beams shoot out from the light round Harry, one hitting Draco, the other Ron and the last Neville. The light seemed to follow Harry's breathing. In the end it melted into Harry. The professors and the little red dragons group ran to each of the 4 boys. Draco, Ron and Neville had been sitting beside Harry, and found them on the ground unconscious. The professors, Weasley twins, Ginny, Hermione, Sirius and Remus had tried to wake Harry, Ron, Draco and Neville up with everything that popped into their minds. But nothing worked. The 4 on the floor looked as thought they were sleeping peacefully after a long day of work. "Professor, what are we going to do?" Hermione asked, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Put them in the infirmary and wait, that's all I can think of," McGonagall replied. Dumbledore looked down at his former students. He noticed that something was changed with Harry and Draco's black cloaks. He took Harry's off, held it out and nearly lost it in surprise. The cloak was still black but now it was trimmed with white fur, and at the middle of it was the Hogwarts coat of arms with the words, Draco Dormiens Nunquam Titulandus in gold under the crest. He had never heard about something like this happening. Dumbledore showed it to the others. Sirius's mouth dropped open and Madame Pomfrey fainted. Dumbledore suddenly remembered something one of his former professors had said, "There will be a little Potter kid with a great destiny. I want to ask 2 favors of you, Headmaster. First, in the summer right before his 7th year, send him these invisibility cloaks. And second, when Hogwarts herself chooses him and 3 others, don't interfere. Just wait until they wake up on their own." What had the name of the professor been? Haw something Hunter. Wasn't that was it? Harry Hunter. Come to think of it, no, that couldn't be right, could it? That would mean that Harry had been teaching Severus, Sirius, Remus and his own parents. Not to mention Peter Pettigrew and Lucius Malfoy. That would explain a few things. Leave them be. Everyone looked at Dumbledore. They will wake up on their own. How can you be so certain? Sirius asked. And why can't we just move them to the infirmary? Do you remember a professor named Harry Hunter? Yes. He was here in your last year. Sirius, Severus and Remus. Had 2 friends with him, Draco Hartnell and Ron Scott. You don't mean that. But Dumbledore. McGonagall was shocked, but it was nothing compared to Snape. Sirius and Remus's reactions. Oh, Remus began. My, Snape continued. God. Sirius finished. Why couldn't I mean that? It has yet to happen. But there's no time turner that could be that strong. McGonagall protested. Do you think he, or they, would need any? Dumbledore asked. Hogwarts herself has chosen them to something big. Do you mean to tell me that these walls are alive? Ginny asked. As Harry told me in the past, there's nothing that isn't alive in one way or another. Even death. Could you guys shut up? You're going to wake up the dead if you continue like this. They turned and found Harry, Draco, Ron and Neville sitting up. What the hell happened? I've no idea. It feels as though there's a truck race inside my head, and the driver's Aunt see the difference between the road and a wall. Really witty Malfoy. Well, what do you want me to do? Put on a skirt and dance the can-can. Okay, you're beginning to scare me. When aren't you scared, Longbottom? Is that an offense? No, it's Cupcake trying to eat you. Of course it's an offense. Well, at least cupcakes taste good. And I bet you taste good to the cupcake. How did cupcakes end up in this argument? Harry asked. I've no idea, but it's a good topic. Draco replied. Yeah, how much flour and milk do you put in it, oh Master Cook Draco? You're getting better, Weasley. Is that a compliment coming from a Malfoy? Of course not, Potter. It was meant in a bad way. Yeah, right. Hey, I'm serious here. You're not serious. He is. The people standing around them could only watch the argument. It was good to see the 4 of them arguing. That meant that Hogwarts was back to normal, well, as normal as it could get. You know, they are worse than you guys when you were in school. Remus said to Snape and Sirius. Speak for yourself, Lupin. Black was the one who picked the fights. Now really. And you were the golden child, running around, and minding your own business. That were your words. And I appreciate that you finally admitted that I was better than you. Is that a joke coming from a Snape? Sirius asked, using some of Harry's words. I think he's finally cracked. Remus said to his friend. Dumbledore, McGonagall, Flitwick and the other professors just stared at the 2 groups arguing. Dumbledore had a small smile on his face. McGonagall was smiling openly and the others were positively grinning. Will they ever grow up? Hermione asked. Let's hope not. Dumbledore replied. Well, this evening was very special, but in another way than we planned. I know that I will not forget it. Do you think they'll run out of comments soon? Fred and George asked after another 10 minutes. We have something planned for this evening too. Every one pointedly looked at the 2 groups arguing. We'll take that as a no. How did they get Quidditch out of ferrets? Ginny asked. I don't want to know. Dumbledore, Fred, George, Hermione and McGonagall said at the same time. There was a cave far from Hogwarts, way up to the north where almost no humans came. A snowstorm was going on outside, but inside the cave a fire was lit, giving it a somewhat cozy atmosphere. There were shelves lined with books, a wooden table with 2 chairs and 2 people sitting by it, playing chess. There was also a great green chair placed right in front of the fire. If he hadn't been such a coward and given himself to them, we would have won by now. I hate it when people turn into cowards, just look at Snape. The voice coming from the chair by the fire was colder than the snowstorm that was going on outside. Bring me the kid. One of the cloaked people rose from the table and disappeared through a door at the far end of the cave. A moment later the person came back with a fat, blonde boy who looked as though he had seen better days. The boy was round 19 or something close. He was placed in front of the chair by the fire. I don't know what you want, but I don't have it. It sounded as though the 2 of them had had this conversation before. Oh, but I think you do. The man in the chair replied. Now, tell me about your cousin. The one T didn't come to save you when you needed him. The one who blew up your house just to spite you. The one who is running around with his abnormal friends, laughing at you. I cannot do anything to him. He's abnormal, as you said, one of you. What would you say if you became more powerful than him? Why, you could do that. The boy asked. This was a new turn. Of course I can, boy. The man in the chair replied. What do you want in return? I know you're kind, you don't do anything like this just for fun. What I want is your loyalty to me. Through thick and thin, as you muggles say it. No, I don't want to. Don't you want to beat him? Destroy him, like he did with your family? No. Oh, I think you do, boy. Everyone has a prize, Dursley. Imperio. Thanks for watching. Harry sigh.